Oh, my daughter's at the door. What is it, babe? You what? Yeah, I know you're 2, but you gotta learn to talk better if you want real help.
Press start.
Let's begin this episode. Enough of this craziness. Skype is throwing us for all kinds of loops.
Everything's been totally normal now.
Everything's been totally normal. This is episode 103, and Derek is here. I am here. This is Tim, and of course Dan and Jeff. Everyone knows they're here every week. It's Tim and Derek who are not as reliable. I get it. Okay, I get it. But Kyle is actually out this week. We've given him a break. Okay, he's taking some
Kyle.
PTO. He deserved it.
PTO.
So anyway, we're here to talk about mostly Horizon Forbidden West. That's what most of our conversation tonight's going to be around. That's what I care the most about. I think that's what we're all playing. So we're going to talk mostly about that. But I want that to be kind of let's come back to that at the end when we'll finish talking about that. So we don't have to have the puttering out of headlines that we sometimes do. So just wanted to throw out there some headlines to get us started this week instead of stuff we're playing. So first thing I want to throw out there, and this one's pretty exciting. The Super Mario RPG director, Chihiro Fujioka, so he was the director of the original Legend of the Seven Stars. He said that he'd like his final game to be another Mario RPG if possible, because he was asked directly about a sequel to the Super Nintendo
by Min-Max.
And he said that's the one I'd like to go out on, is what he was saying. So very, very cool. If that ends up being something, that'd be amazing.
How old is he? Is he nearing the end of his career, or?
I don't know.
If he's been around since Super Nintendo, I mean, if he was, say, in his early 20s, then I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So get cracking.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that article, I definitely had a just full on erection.
Do it.
Because I love that game. One little thing he said though that had me worried, because I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. He wants the game to fully focus on Mario. Like he almost made it seem like you're only playing as Mario. That's what his idea he's saying. And I was like, no, I want the whole cast. I want
Dan,
Gino.
tell the people who they need to see in this game.
We need Gino, god damn it.
That's it. We need Gino and some Mallow, right? We want Mallow.
Oh, absolutely, Mallow. Yeah, fluffy little guy, you know.
Mallow. And I want Peach to have her frying pan. I want all the things.
Yes, I want all.
All right. Nintendo is officially ceasing eShop purchases for the 3DS and Wii U shops. So, of course, not the Switch. But that's not until next year. You've got 13 months. March of 2023 is when they're scheduling to shut down the ability to purchase things on the stores. And I'm seeing some rumblings potentially even to re-download things. So it's very similar to that Sony announcement from last year. And then there was a bunch of backlash. They came back and said, no, you'll be able to re-download everything as long as, for the future, for the foreseeable future. We just can't purchase anything there anymore. So that really pulled back. I thought that pulled back a lot of the criticism. We'll see if Nintendo doesn't seem to usually respond to much of that. They usually just do their thing.
We're gonna do what we want, and you're gonna buy our stuff.
They shut down the Wii ability to re-download stuff you own. So I remember hitting that panic where I was like, uh-oh, I gotta download everything before they're gone.
Yeah.
So anyway, Nintendo is moving on clearly from their online shops of really all their consoles except for the Switch. So there you go. I think there's someone did a rough count. There's roughly 1,000 games that you can't get on any other current Nintendo, or you can't get on Switch, basically, across those two platforms.
I said
that's
it.
Mostly garbage, but even if 10%, that's 100 games. You know what I mean? That's a lot. So. Anyway.
I said it with the Sony thing. I'll say it with this. It's if you're gonna do that though, I feel like they need to work up towards a lot, kind of transferring that stuff over. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I agree.
They just don't do it because I know it costs time and money, but it's just important. Preservation is important.
I agree. Well, Microsoft. This is something I actually didn't write down, but I was reading about it tonight. That there's some filings that indicate that the discussion of Microsoft acquiring Activision, which we know is still under review by whatever board, the Illuminati, I guess. But
yes,
that acquisition, those talks began the day after the Bobby Kotick story broke, and Phil Spencer actually made that public announcement that we're going to reevaluate our relationship. You guys remember this? That was his response.
Yeah.
And and the day after that was when those talks became pretty serious about acquiring Activision. So it does seem like, according to that filing, a lot of that was a response to the garbage going on.
Yeah,
So
they saw an opportunity.
Phil was like, "We're gonna buy those idiots." By the way,
Idiot
real quick, out of the four of us, do you guys think it's gonna go through? Does everyone think this acquisition is gonna be approved and go through? Derek, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yes.
You think it will? And Jeff, you do too?
Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't.
I mean,
And
I mean, Disney's an even bigger juggernaut. So people talking about monopolies, like, look at Disney. So
Only ponies think it's a monopoly.
It's true. It's
I
true.
mean, they really are stupid, but
are you talking about horses, or are we talking about?
Do you think that they're going to take
Go ask,
into
go
account?
ask a horse right now.
There's been lots of official statements from both Activision and from Microsoft saying we're going to keep putting these games on other platforms, including Sony. And they at least gave, like, for the next few years because of contracts. But even beyond that, there's been a lot of talk about, like, no, we're going to keep putting them out on those consoles too. That's what I keep
primarily they would be referring to COD, because
I think so
just they'd just be leaving way too much money on the table to
Yeah,
I think so too.
to not do it that way.
All right. Well, Game Pass is adding some games. I wanted to mention some of those. They actually were leaked and then confirmed. A couple of them are already out now. So you've got Mass Effect Legendary Edition is not just on the console or PC, but now you can play the cloud version if that's your thing. You can also get Lawn Mowing Simulator on your Xbox One.
Yeah.
the
So
dream, Tim.
you can play an even uglier version of that game on the Xbox One now. It was, if you're wondering, it was on PC and the Series X. It was not on the Xbox One before. Madden NFL is now there because of their partnership with EA Play. So you can play Madden 22. Should be out as of
Wow.
Thursday. It's kind of mean that they put that out right after the Super Bowl because they know the interest in NFL just takes a dive off the cliff right then.
Sure.
So like, hey, don't forget about NFL.
This gives people that are addicted to it their fix, I guess.
It makes sense, man. It makes sense. Total War Warhammer 3, which, by the way, is getting really great reviews, is also a PC Game Pass game. Is a day one release. I have it. No, I don't have it downloaded because it was way too large of a file. So I still need to clear out a few things to download and give that one a try.
What
It's
type
like
of game is that?
It's like 119 gigabyte download or something.
Good
It's
grief.
Jesus. It is a strategy game.
Okay.
I think it's real time, but I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it. But the other Total War games were real time. So, RoboQuest is a game preview game that comes out on the 22nd this coming week. Galactic Civilizations 3 is a strategy game on PC coming out on February 24th. Super Mega Baseball 3 also February 24th, which, by the way, is just kind of a cartoony, non-licensed baseball game. But I can confirm it's actually kind of fun. It's kind of arcadey, simpler version of baseball if you don't care about real MLB players and teams. And then Alice Madness Returns coming to Game Pass through EA Play on February 28th. So there you go.
I would describe that as a lesser month, but I know the Mass Effect one is kind of big. So,
well, what they're doing, it seems to me, is they come in these almost twice a month waves. So I feel like earlier this month we got stuff that was coming out the first 2 weeks, and then now we've kind of got the second 2 weeks. So,
okay.
There you
Good
go.
point.
Game Pass is still chugging along. I got to be honest, though. I am considering pausing my Game Pass membership. I'm now to the point where I'm past like the big deal that I bought, the big chunk of whatever, a year, because I had Game with Gold or whatever. It was one of those things where you had the whole chunk of time. Now I'm just down to paying the monthly. I'm not using it a ton at the moment. Now that I finished Halo Infinite, I'm not really into the multiplayer on Halo right now. I've got other non-Xbox games that I'm playing over the next several weeks. I'm thinking I might pause it. I don't know.
I try to keep an eye out.
Tied to your Xbox Live?
Yes. What do I have to do if I want?
Well, that's the thing. That's why it's kind of pointless to pause it. If you care about Xbox Live is like $10 a month. So Game Pass Ultimate's $15. So you're paying $5 more, and you still have game.
See, I'm glad I had forgotten the way that was all connected. Yeah, I'll probably.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually need to talk to my oldest son. He uses a lot of games on my Game Pass account. So maybe I do have to leave it. Whatever. Listen,
What
I've been
you
trying
should
to be
be
fiscally
doing
responsible,
is what you should be doing is what I do, and that's when you're getting kind of close to when you have to resub, they'll usually put it on sale. Like sometimes even on I think CD keys, I've gotten like 3 months of Game Pass, which is normally 45. I've gotten it for 25.
Yeah.
And it just can tack onto your account? Does it just add that time on?
Yeah, it just keeps
It's like
stacking.
a code.
Oh.
I'm up in July, so I've only got 5 months left. So if I see a deal soon, I'm gonna add 3 months.
Okay, so if yours expires in July and you bought a 3-month thing on CD keys, that's good through October now?
Yep.
Dude, I didn't know that at all.
That's
That's
what
great.
I've been doing.
I'm gonna do that.
I haven't paid since the service launched. I haven't paid $15 a month.
I think I have been since like Christmas. I think over the holiday was when my kind of last big chunk of time turned into just regular monthly payment. Listen, it's worth it if I were actively playing these games, but now I'm totally on Horizon. Next up is Elden Ring, and I'm playing some non-Game Pass games a lot these days. But anyway, all right, moving on. BioShock film is in the works. Listen, BioShock film's been in the works. It feels like on and off, at least in talks, or there's been lots of plans.
I think it's more of an idea than it was like anything was actually happening.
But now it sounds like Take-Two and Netflix actually have something going. At least that's the news, because it's officially announced by the Netflix Geeked Twitter account. So the actual quote is, Netflix, 2K, and Take-Two Interactive are partnering to produce a film adaptation of the renowned video game franchise BioShock. That's all it said. Didn't attach any big names to it, but it was officially announced, which I don't think it's been announced before.
Spoilers for whatever it's going to end up being. There probably will be lighthouses. So
there will be lighthouses. Good call.
Yes.
Good call.
Spoiler alert.
We've talked about this already in some of our chat, but in case you're listening and didn't know this, Cyberpunk 2077 finally has the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X versions of the game up with their 1.5 patch. It's officially out. I've heard some great things. I know, Derek, you played this a little bit, right, with the new patch?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I'm like level 14 and on my Xbox playthrough. I beat it on PC, but I was playing simultaneously at launch on Xbox and PC. Anyways, when I jumped into my game, I played like maybe 10 minutes and then I hit a bug that two times shut my entire Xbox down, and then when I turned my Xbox on, it said your Xbox needs to be in a position where it won't overheat. And I'm like, it's not in a position to overheat. That means your game is like bugging it out. So it's during like a scene where it's like a cut scene, but you still have control.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a standoff, and so I can choose whether I shoot the person or not. And every time I go to shoot them, the console crashes.
Jeez.
So I have a feeling people are all like, it's working great, because they're just starting the game. But I bet you there's bugs, just like I ran into in later missions. Just like
is that just overworking the processor?
Yeah, that's basically what it was. It's like freaking out the Xbox and shutting it down.
Okay.
Too much going on at one time.
Okay. Gotcha.
I started a new save of a Nomad run, which I've never done, and I got to, God dang it, the one you do one where you pick up it's like the very first mission that they demoed, where you pick up the android and she's corrupted or whatever and totally naked, boobs, and and you help the trauma team come in and take her. So it's like right after that is where I think it's where I ended. Okay. So I'm still very early in the game, but the fact that I can play it on a console, it's on PS5 is the one I'm playing. The fact that I'm playing on console at all is a massive improvement to me, because last time I tried to play a disc version of it on PS4 Pro and it was just garbage. The PC is where I ended up beating it, and it played amazingly. But it's definitely an improvement to me, but I obviously didn't get very far because we had other things come out this week.
Okay. Well, DJ,
you mean you were finishing up Dying Light 2, right?
That's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Define finishing up, because
totally finished it. Yep. I made choices, and
if you guys think I'm on this podcast just to talk about Horizon Forbidden West, Wrong.
Tim, exit out his box right now.
I will. I'll do it. DJ2 Entertainment, who I don't know who this is, but apparently it's a popular streamer. They inked a deal with
Production
Amazon
company.
Amazon Studios. Oh, okay. So what's the streamer? Okay, the streamer struck a deal with DJ2 Entertainment. Oh, I get it. Amazon's the streamer. My bad.
Yeah.
Which co-produced the first Sonic film and is involved in the sequel under this deal. By the way, DJ2 apparently specializes in bringing video games to the screen. They're going to create and produce content that will exclusively stream to Prime Video. So I don't think they've said what yet, have they? With this gaming IP, have they said?
Yeah.
Life is Strange, Disco Elysium. It Takes Two. Okay, got it.
Disco Elysium seems.
Yeah, they were already announced to be the ones that were leading the charge on It Takes Two. We don't know if that's going to be Amazon or not, but Life is Strange and Disco Elysium they've mentioned for sure.
So these are going to be Amazon. This is going to be Amazon content. Oh,
and I wonder if they'll be linked to adapting Mass Effect 2, because I know there was a rumor or something that Amazon was looking at adapting that as well.
Okay, all right. I just want this stuff to be good. You know, I don't
Same,
need
dude.
them.
Especially Mass Effect, dang.
Well, I
need them to
think
make
this
crappy versions.
is turning into like superhero movies where everybody's latching on like this is big money to make video game TV series and movies and stuff like that. So you're gonna get some good ones, but I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of it's just money grab where it's just we're just doing it just to get your money and it's not gonna be high quality.
That's already been the case too. So once in a while you get one that's pretty decent or good, but.
Well, I mean, everything before was always money grab, but now there are people that are trying to release things that are passionate. Like I went and saw Uncharted today, and of course they're trying to get my money. But you can tell if you've watched the movie, you can tell that. Well, first of all, Sony is the one that's producing it or whatever. They release it under their PlayStation Studios. That they care about the video games and that they're actually trying to follow the games and the characters. I know there's gripes about
no, they're not.
who they picked to act in the certain roles, but then I think that's hilarious that people are so upset about this Uncharted movie, yet when The Last of Us was going to replace white characters with black characters and all that stuff, they're like, that's totally cool, freedom to do whatever they want.
That's not
well,
the same.
Then let them do it in Uncharted. It's the same.
No, it's not.
100%.
Age and race are not the same thing. Come on,
dude.
Well,
if you're okay with a black person playing a white character, but you're mad that a younger white character is playing an older white character. Which, by the way, Sully was younger
to the story.
Because even Tom Holland is a younger Nathan Drake. So they're clearly playing it before games were released. And they're not following it exactly to the T. They're just pulling stuff from the video games. So I don't have a problem with it. Like, there was not one time while I was watching the film that I was like, well, Mark Wahlberg's just a terrible Sully. He's not a terrible Sully. Like, he's fine.
On that, dude.
Well, I'm fine. I've always been fine being in the minority. I don't care about that.
Well, like
my point is, people pick and choose. People pick and choose like what they want to complain about, like what's acceptable and what's not.
Yeah, I see your point.
It's like
Well, it's funny that people bitch about the movie or video games becoming movies at all, but then they try to do something like, I'm guessing, kind of like the airplane scene, right? In this movie, there's the airplane scene, which is literally from Uncharted 3, and people bitching about it. It's like, well, they're trying to kind of be like, hey, look, like we're paying sort of respect to the game, like we're adding this scene in, and people are trying to be like, well, in the game, he's not younger Nathan, so this doesn't make sense timeline. It's like the movie is not the game; it's its own separate thing. Like
that's what I'm saying. So
I was going to say,
solely makes sense,
but I also hear the point that Jeff is saying. I agree with that too, where it's like, well, the race of Joel didn't have anything to do with that character, but his age did, as a guy who had a daughter, and then 20 years later is kind of this, what is he, maybe upper 40s in Last of Us Part 1? Yeah. Like, to me, his age experience and just kind of the hardening of who he is does play a big factor. So if they had cast Tom Holland as Joel in Last of Us, I'd be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So, like,
he's got to watch a baby.
I'm just saying, I think I see both points. I see what you're saying, Derek, where it's like, why are you getting mad with some casting changing a lot about the character, but you're not mad about this one? But I also see the point of like, well, if if it really truly
if your
made a
issue
difference to the
is
character.
Sully is too young,
Yeah.
then your issue is also Tom is too young, but
Yes.
then that makes sense that Tom and
You're
Sully are not Tom. Nathan and Sully are both younger. It's literally the beginning of their relationship.
I get it.
In the movie world. So it's not in the video game. All they're taking from the video games is certain scenes, which, just like Dan just said, they're not taking those scenes and going, this is the timeline of the movie or the video games. They're going,
Right.
we're taking that scene and we're making it our own.
So
I
But
get it.
we're
It's not
doing it
Uncharted
so you
then.
get that nostalgic vibe. Like, oh, they're pulling that. Because there's literally, I'm not going to spoil it, there's scenes from Uncharted 4, Uncharted 3, you know, a lot from Uncharted 4 when they're climbing the rocks, and then when they do the kids scene. But that's all they take from there. And then Uncharted 3, there's action scene. Yeah, a lot of climbing. But they made sure they
With
did
one
that.
hand.
They did the little.
Little fingertips.
It's called an adaptation. That's the word that people just want to act like they don't.
That's
I
what
would
I'm
have
saying.
added a subtitle to the movie because it made it seem like it was an adaptation of the video game, but it's an interpretation of the video game.
Or sure.
You know, to me,
Yeah,
it's not
it's
that
a
it
totally
didn't
different
make. It's
interpretation
not
of
that it didn't make sense. I got it. Like Mark Wahlberg is a younger version of Sully. I get it. Like I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I just didn't want that. I wanted a.
I didn't
Same
want
here.
that,
Right.
but I'm going to watch it, and I'm not
Yes.
going to
I'll
complain
watch.
about it.
I'll watch it too. At some
I
point.
also
Yeah.
don't want a
I'll
Black
eventually see it.
Joel. But if they do
He's
a
not
Black
black.
Joel, I'll still watch it.
You know, I actually think that there was a lot of people that could have played a better Joel than. No offense to him. I know he's great in a lot of things,
Pascal?
but Pedro Pascal was not would not have been
I mean,
at the top
dude,
of my
Roland.
list. But
Roland.
like,
right?
there's
Actually,
a lot of.
when I heard Pedro Pascal got cast, I was like, oh, he can do that. He can totally do that.
He can, but it was also kind of like the Chris Pratt moment where it's like, does he have to be in everything? There's a little bit of that.
Yeah, because he's like
little bit of that.
he's hot off Mandalorian, and he was in something else too.
I still
recently.
think Anson Mount from Hell on Wheels would have been the perfect Joel. I mean,
He
I know
aged out though, right? Like, because he's a little too
whatever.
old
No,
now,
he's
you know?
he's got to be right
Whatever.
around 50. Anyway, who cares? Who
But
cares?
he's in Discovery.
You
so.
discriminate against age. You got to get over that shit.
Jesus.
Well, he's like 60 now,
You're
so
being
it'd kind of be
ageist.
like Grandpa or whatever playing.
Is he? He
Joel.
might be older. I don't remember.
I know he's like the elder captain on like Star Trek, one of those Star Trek shows that are out.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
Okay.
which one. But...
Yeah, Hell on Wheels is a good 10.
Oh
years
man, Hell on Wheels.
But
is so good,
anyways,
though.
I would say just for those, I know we kind of went off.
That's okay.
Off what
Yeah,
we
I was
were
going to ask
really
you about
talking
that movie. Yeah.
Uncharted's great. It
Oh, I'm
is
glad
a
you brought it up,
really
yeah.
fun movie. It's a very fun movie. If you just go into it going, I want an Uncharted movie that just kind of like pulls from the games but isn't the games, it's great.
Yeah.
If you go
They
into
did
it
a good
going, I
job.
want a bad movie, then that's what you get.
Okay. All right. Trash talker hasn't even seen it. Listen, if I
I
once
know,
it's-
but it just, I mean, it
once
looks
it's
terrible.
on a
I'm sorry.
streaming service, like it's one of those ones that I'll watch right away when it's available streaming. I don't plan on going to the theater for it. Dude, getting to the theater right now is like, I still haven't seen the new Spider-Man. So in about 1 week, I think it's available for purchase. I already bought it, so it should be available to watch.
You're gonna
from
watch
home.
it so many times, man. It's yeah.
But-
that movie's
Batman's
so much
coming
fun.
out in 2 weeks.
I'm
I'll
just
be
saying,
going
yeah,
to
I'm
that.
I was
seeing that
hoping
early.
to go see Batman,
Yeah.
but man, getting to a movie with our family setup right now is really, really tough. Anyway,
Yeah, you have to pay like $1,000.
either I'm paying for everyone and it's ridiculous, or I'm wheeling and dealing like some kind of business negotiation with my wife to be able to get 4 hours out to drive to the place, get there on time, watch the movie. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
whatever. All right, let's talk about another rumor. We talked about a couple other rumors already, but Capcom is set to announce something on Monday. They've had a countdown since last Monday.
Yeah, let's check the countdown where they're at right now. Let's go ahead.
We're recording
check.
this on a Saturday. I think we got 2 days left, or like a day and a half, maybe.
We have drum roll. Drum roll, please.
Can't do it. I can't do a drum roll.
1 day and 2 hours.
Brr.
So yeah, the rumors, and they're from multiple sources, according to Video Games Chronicle, and that is that they're set to announce Street Fighter 6. That's the rumor right now. Is that'll be the announcement?
Never played
Sure.
one of those. Just kidding.
That's all they're doing. That
Fighting
was the
Streets.
big-
Fighting Streets.
That's what it sounds like. Who knows?
I'm going to kick that some bitch Bison's ass.
God
But
damn it! Don't
it could
you
be
do
more
that.
than
So
that.
ord.
I thought it
could be
was
something else.
Microsoft was buying them.
No, that was
I
that was
guess
just
that's the new joke every time there's like a game
sure,
announced.
sure.
I have heard that. Well, this is just business analysts saying this, so who knows? But I remember them putting out something about like how Microsoft buying any Japanese-based company is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Just because
I
of
get
all
that.
kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like we talked about this already. If Sony buys
Racism.
someone, if Sony buys a company, it seems like
What?
Capcom and Square would be right for the picking for Sony.
Yeah.
It's just Japanese companies. I don't know. They have their own way of operating. That's I don't.
It's also
They
a
just
pride
don't.
thing.
Yeah, they just don't. They're just like I feel like they're just like I'm good. We're
It's
good.
chaos.
Yeah.
It's chaos.
Chaos.
All right, lastly but not leastly, Walton Goggins. Speaking of video game movies, he was the villain in the Tomb Raider movie. He's also been some crazy characters though, man. We talked about this in our chat a little bit. He's all over the place. Sometimes he plays a pretty straightforward, like just guy, like a character that a lot of different
Yeah.
actors.
A guy that you forget is in like I
Yes.
forgot he was in Tomb Raider and the Ant-Man sequel.
Yep.
Because he's
But
like he
then
just
if-
shows
oh,
up
yeah.
and does his
Then if
lines
you
and
watch
leaves.
him in stuff like Ant-Man or like Sons of Anarchy, then you're like, yeah, I remember that guy. That
Yeah,
guy
oh,
was
yeah.
very memorable. Anyway, I mean, he had the most cleavage of any male character I've ever seen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds
It's
like
true.
right up Derek's alley.
It's something.
Him hitting on
Um,
Jax was just so, and his reaction to it was just so funny.
So that actor is all over the place. Anyway, he has been cast in a Fallout TV series. Speaking of video game IP coming to Amazon, so he's been cast there. So
And
we know that
they've already
bringing some
revealed,
talent
like Christopher Nolan's brother Jonathan, who has been doing like Westworld, he's
Right.
he's doing the show. So it's that same series. It's not. I don't know. I have more faith in that. Ever since I heard that Jonathan Nolan was involved, I was like, well, then I'm freaking psyched for this now because that guy does world building stuff really well.
Well, speaking of stuff we're watching, I know Derek, you saw the Uncharted movie. I was going to ask about that. Uncharted. Dan and Jeff, you guys gonna see this in the theaters or like me waiting for streaming?
No, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna take the Nathan Drake route and pirate it.
It's fair.
Well, I'm glad you just openly admitted that.
I'm kidding. I'm gonna get it legally, totally legally.
Wink, wink.
FBI.
You're absolutely pirating it. Go ahead, Dan. Are you
I don't
gonna
know what
watch
you're
it?
talking
No, I'm very particular about what I'm gonna go to the theater to see. Yeah, I went to go see Spider-Man, obviously, in the theater, but yeah, I'm just gonna wait for that to be on streaming. So
Yeah, last time I was in the theater was for Scream. I've become particular about what I see in theaters now too.
Sure, makes sense. Makes sense. Derek, in general, it sounds like you recommend folks watch this, especially if they just like a good adventure.
If you
fun
like
time.
Uncharted,
What
I
if you
mean,
don't? What if you don't know Uncharted? What if it's someone who just likes Indiana Jones type
mean,
movies? Is it right in
Ian,
that vein?
I took my son Ian. He's never played Uncharted, and I said, "Did you like it?" Now, granted, he's younger, and he pretty much says yes to everything. He's like, "Yeah, I really like that." I was like, "You want to play the games?" He's like, "Are they like the movie?" I was like, "Yeah." He's
Are
like,
they like
"Okay." Like, yeah, okay.
there you go. See?
Yeah.
It's made
It did its job.
what 15 million this weekend, I think. So
I think it's
that's
done pretty
I
well.
think we'll know the official
40.
number
It's
on
already
Sunday
at
or
45
Monday.
million.
well, I'm sorry, in the
America.
United States, I mean.
No,
I think
in
it's at
America, it's
45.
at 45 million.
Is it? Because
Already?
I'm reading worldwide. It's saying, well, I don't know. This is saying
Worldwide should be way more than
36.9,
45.
but 45. Here we go. Yeah, 10 hours ago. Yeah.
We
It's
won't
not-
really know
it's-
until Monday. It's a 3-day weekend technically for the
I
holiday.
think it's
for
safe
the
to
box
say
office.
that this is not going to be a flop. Whether or not, I don't know that it's going to.
I don't
be
think
a
it will be
record
yeah.
breaker, but it's not a flop.
I don't know if it's gonna earn back its, but that's the biggest thing for studios. Like if you can earn back
Yeah.
your budget and then
Yeah.
some, then it's like here's your sequel.
In
We'll see
defense of the
about that.
casting, which I've been very clear, I'm not a big fan of. In defense of the casting, though, I do feel like Tom Holland is such a household name right now, and of course,
Yeah.
Mark
Yeah.
Wahlberg's reliable as well.
Mhm.
I think them carrying the movie has gotten a lot more attention and attraction from non-video game fans to go see this.
I would
movie.
agree with that.
So-
And that's why they make these decisions. But then all of us people who all of the people that are cynical that have played the games are, oh, this is ridiculous. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, it's gonna make money, so
Yep.
Not
That's the
about
goal.
us most.
Butts and seats.
You're right, because we're already gonna watch and play whatever. They're trying to attract the non-fans. So
So 120 million was the budget. I mean,
Okay.
I
give or
still
take.
think Tom Holland was actually a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're so anti, like Nathan Drake was older, he wasn't when he started. He wasn't older, and Uncharted 4 clearly proves that he was already like this as a kid. So they could easily explain
three,
that away,
actually.
and then even Sully, they could explain that away. The only thing you can't explain away is that he met Sully in Uncharted 1 and Sully was older. That's it.
Mhm.
But again, you're not. They were never ever following the games.
I was
just
gonna say
taking-
in Uncharted 3, he's like what, around 15 maybe. I forget how young the
Oh,
young
yeah,
Nathan
that's
When
Drake
Sully
is.
meets him.
Yeah, when he's
Yeah.
a kid, but I forget how old he is. But yeah, so
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. So he actually met him when he was young.
So it's like after Sam disappears
Yeah,
from his life for a moment,
no.
whatever.
Oh wait.
Sam doesn't
yeah.
exist until Uncharted 4
right.
Yeah.
because he was shoehorned into the story.
Yes.
Right. I'm glad they did that in this movie, because that was like by the way, my brother that I thought was dead, like it was just kind of silly that he never ran up to Elena.
Even though it was shoehorned in, having replayed
love the story,
a bunch of
though.
it recently, I feel like they did
Yeah.
a good job for shoehorning such a major character into a story of well-known characters already. It's like they did a good job of that, of kind of bringing him back in a way that, even though it's forced, of course, but then it makes you appreciate how
I just
good of a
didn't
job they did.
like him at all. He was not.
That's
There
fair.
were so many. I know you guys love Uncharted 4, and
Yeah.
and
Well, I was just gonna say real
Tim
quick before
thought
you
I
go
was
into that.
trolling, but I wasn't trolling.
Before you go into that, because I do want to hear what you think about that. I was just going to say, it makes you appreciate how good of a job they did compared to other times you try to shoehorn in a major character, like in Spider-Man 3. I'm rewatching the Spider-Man movies with my kids.
Oh God.
And all of a sudden, Sandman
Dig on this.
is this very personal villain to Spider-Man because of, oh, he was actually the guy. It's like, what is
Right,
this?
right,
Is so
yeah.
Oh, the guy behind the guy behind the guy.
Yep.
type thing,
Yes.
yeah.
So anyway, but Derek, you were talking about
Oh,
Uncharted
that's what
4.
Spectre did too with Blum, whatever,
They
Blofeld.
did. That's right.
Yeah.
That was
Oh
really dope,
yeah.
too.
All of that Vesper Lind was me too, and
That
come
was-
on, bro.
That was dope.
Come
That
on.
was dope. But Derek, you said that with Uncharted 4, you didn't like the way they did Sam in that game.
I just didn't. I played Uncharted 4 twice.
Yeah.
The second time, I think I enjoyed it a little bit more, but it's definitely tied for my least favorite. I just didn't like. I didn't like Sam as a character, so it wasn't just that they shoehorned him in, but then he was just annoying. He was absolutely annoying. He wasn't likable.
I liked him.
I didn't
I
like
like
him
him
at
too.
all. And to me, like when you have somebody like Nathan, who's very, very likable, and then you have a brother that's not likable, and then the whole story is always about Nathan saving his brother's ass. At some point, like I'm like, if my brother was like that, I'm like, I'm not saving you. You're annoying. Like
I
I'm
liked
done
him
with
in
you.
the same way that I liked the character and the brother character in Ozark season 3. I mean,
Oh
Yeah.
like
jeez.
I like when they portray a character in a different way. He's very gray. Like, so Nathan Drake is kind of your classic good guy who's got a little bit of rough edges, but he's a good guy through and through. And then his brother is definitely more that gray area where it's like
Yeah.
you can't really trust him, but he's also not totally bad. And I don't know. I kind of liked that, but I can see
But
what you're saying.
see, even in the movies, without like spoiling it, because the brother's not in it a lot, but like the flashback scenes, they always portray the brother as a good older brother, but in reality, he's not. But you never got to see the transition to him being a bad brother. All you know is, oh, flashbacks, good brother. Reality, not a good
You
brother.
talking about in the movie or in the game?
The games and the movie. There's
Oh.
a disconnect there where it's like, is he a good Drake or is he a bad one? Like, I don't know what he is. I understand you're saying, well, he's gray, but you don't get to see the transition. All you see is he's young. He's a good older brother. Like, he cares
Yes.
about his younger brother. The entire backstory of him is he's gone. And then he's not gone. And then it's, why didn't you tell me type thing. And
Well,
then
dude,
he's just
I
like,
gotta say, for me personally, with the game, I like the way that he turned into a slightly darker, less trusting version because he was
been
slight
through a lot.
major spoilers for Uncharted 4 here if you don't want to hear this. But not only did he get shot and they thought he was dead and then essentially ditched in this foreign prison and he's released, and Nathan's had these amazing adventures without him and he's moved on with his life and he's got a wife.
Sam
and
hasn't had any
Dude,
of those adventures.
I saw as soon as I watched all that unfold when they're having that first reunion conversation sitting there on the dock or whatever it is, I remember thinking like, if I'm Sam, I am ticked off right now. Like, you left me in the prison and you were living this amazing life. And he's like, well, I
Yeah.
tried to find you. He's like, did you? Because I was right there. So I get it, even though you're saying you don't see. I think that is the transition. It's he sat in prison alone, abandoned for what was it?
I thought that was terrible. Like, I haven't seen
Yeah,
you
it's
in
terrible.
forever.
That's
and
why
I'm
he-
just
It is
gonna
terrible,
pitch.
but they explained it, so.
No, well, for you guys, but like to me, that's just like he's pitching a fit, and that's not how I would view it.
Uh,
And I understand I'm not in prison or whatever, but again, you got yourself in prison. So to sit there and like
He got shot helping his brother escape. What are you talking about?
he got himself in prison. He was a part
They
of
all
that.
did.
Exactly. And they thought he was dead. You don't if you tell me,
Well, he coughed
"Oh,
up
dude,
blood,
I
so
thought
that's
you
like
were
a telltale
dead."
sign, right?
And he fell like 3 stories through a
Yeah,
roof with
he
bullets in his
did.
back.
Exactly. So if I think you're dead, you don't get to play victim that you were sitting in prison. That's your problem. I'm still a good brother. I still love you. I don't have that relationship with my brother. We're not super close, but I don't think if like that happened, he would be like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in forever. Let me just be cold and passive aggressively annoying." Like it was just annoying. He was an annoying character. That's all I'm saying. The
That's fair.
entire game, I was like, "Oh God, he's annoying."
That's the beautiful thing about each of our takes on it, because I actually found him to be really interesting. I like this character a lot, but
I like what he
okay.
brought to the dynamic because like
I like their banter.
Like you were touching on, Nate already had all these adventures, and Sam is like, well, I haven't
They
had
were
a single one.
But they were supposed to do them together. They had plans
Exactly,
for
and they
years
never
talked
did them
about,
together.
They dreamed about these special, because you can hear as they're catching up, he's like, well, what about this place? And even as they're climbing, he's saying, well, what about this treasure or this place? And Nate is kind of filling him in, and he sounded genuinely excited / sad that he missed all this stuff. So that's what I was
of course his selfishness gets in the way when he's like, when they split at that moment right before the last chapter, and he's like, treasure's right there, so I'm gonna go create my own Nathan Drake adventure real quick. And Nate's like, son of a
yeah.
I found it more interesting than annoying.
But I can see how he's definitely not like Sully or Elena, but at all. He's a very different character than Nathan's connected with. Although Chloe's kind of similar. Whatever. We can move on.
We're cutting in the Dying Light 2 time.
God damn it. God damn it.
There's a couple of shows that I want to just get quick high-level thoughts on. The first season of Peacemaker ended. I think all 3 of you watched that.
I did not. No.
I finished it. Yeah.
So Derek and Jeff watched it.
I haven't finished it. I've only done the first 6. I got like when I made a post about it, I'd watched all that had been released. I haven't watched the last 2 yet.
All right. But overall, you liked what you saw so far, right? You enjoyed that show. From what I could tell from what you said, it seemed like you liked it.
Yeah, I mean, he's when I watched the Suicide Squad, I thought he was the most annoying and worst character. And now as you watch the show, see, this is where they actually did a good thing, and then they show you his backstory and they fill in his gaps, and you're like, "Oh, he's a cool character." And I think that's even whatever his face is, Gunn, the guy that makes these movies and the shows and everything.
James Gunn, James Gunn.
He even said, he's like, nobody asked for this, and now we're making a season 2, and he's right. Nobody. Yeah. I don't think there's many people that are like, man, I watched Suicide Squad. John Cena, Peacemaker.
Yeah,
loved him. He stole the show. No, he was annoying, and so
I mean, I thought he was really funny in the movie. That's.
Oh, I found him most of the time.
The brawl with what's his face was pretty intense, but.
Yeah, but I felt like the show so far has been really, really good, and it kind of explains to a certain extent why he is the way he is, especially with his background.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yep. And then Jeff, you did finish it, right? You finished.
Yeah, you have another hero with a or anti-hero with a horrible parents or dad complex, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, his dad is the T-1000, so I mean, obviously you're gonna have some issues, or a racist version of the T-1000. No, I mean
with the mullet.
Yes.
With the mullet.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. Okay.
Oh man.
He is like literally like a Grandmaster. I think that's his villain name, right? Grandmaster or something like that, because he's in the KKK or something. Anyway, yeah, dude, it's a really funny show though. It's like a dark, funny show in the same vein as the Suicide Squad, and the level of violence that you can expect. Like because it's still James Gunn. He's doing everything with the show.
It's got to me like I mean, it's not like The Boys, but like the feeling it gives me is like The Boys.
Okay,
like you got this crew, and they're dirty, and they shouldn't fit together, but they fit together pretty good. They work together even though they don't really work together. So
they're like another gang of misfits, like The Boys are. Yeah,
dude, The Boys season 3 is it coming out in June? Woo!
Yeah,
June. Nice.
They got an animated show coming out first with a crazy cast.
Yeah.
Definitely look that up.
It shows
But yeah,
so
it's really good though, and they're doing a season 2, and every episode has like a post credits kind of like throwaway gag. It's really funny. Highly recommend sticking around for that.
Okay. Speaking of animated shows, the Cuphead show is out.
Yeah.
I didn't watch this yet. The game I always thought had really cool visuals. How's the show?
It's on par with the game. I mean, the visuals are exactly what I wanted a show to be. Actually, everything with the technical and visual presentation of it is exactly what I wanted a show to be. It's just this is clearly geared towards like young, super young kids.
I was gonna ask you, is this kind of one of those
made
like
for everybody? You know,
was this one of those shows that's super violent and it's made for adults, but they make it look like it's for kids, or is it actually a kids show?
It's just a kid show.
Okay.
And Gaston.
And Gaston. It's a kid/Gaston show. So
Okay, got it.
I think he finished it, and it's finishable. It's like super breezy watch. It's like 15-minute episodes, maybe even less when you can skip the intro, and 12 episodes, so you can just knock them out in like one sitting. I haven't. I got halfway through. I'm not even sure I'm gonna finish it because of everything else that's out. But I mean, it's again on a technical level, everything's just awesome. But content-wise, I'm just like, oh well. Considering there's like devils and stuff in this game, I thought it would be a little bit darker.
Yeah.
But it's very much a Y7 type show.
Well, I legitimately thought this next show on our list here was canceled. I just assumed they abandoned it. That's Space Force, which I enjoyed season 1. I didn't think it was great though. Like I enjoyed it, but I thought a lot of it fell flat. Even though I liked the actors, I even liked the concept, like the setting and what they were doing, and I didn't mind even the storyline, kind of that cliffhanger, quote unquote cliffhanger at the very end. I didn't mind any of that. It was more just the funny didn't land for me all the time. Sometimes, but not all the time. And I was a little disappointed. I mean, I thought they underused John Ralphio. I thought Steve Carell wasn't really fun. Steve Carell didn't seem like he was having fun making this show. I understand he can be very serious and he's a good serious actor, but when he's having fun, I have a lot of fun watching him. Like even his small role in Anchorman, I thought that guy's having a blast.
Rick Tamlin.
Even his guy. Even his small role in Bruce Almighty, in Bruce Almighty, his very small role as a newscaster, like he's having a blast, and I died laughing at that scene.
Yes.
So I'm surprised that season 2 of Space Force came out, and I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm hoping they improved it. Is it improved?
I would say yes. I mean, there were several moments where I laughed out loud where I can't remember laughing. I can't remember one good laugh from season 1. I just remember season 1 being like a relatively breezy watch where because every episode is like 30 minutes. It's 10 episodes. You're in and out. It's whatever. The characters are fine. Everybody's fine.
Right.
That's how I classify the first season. This is less episodes, so it's 7. And I don't know if there's a part 2 coming or not. But so I think they added Tim Meadows. I think that's the only cast member they added. Otherwise, it's the same cast. But I feel like they gave everybody more laughs to work with.
Okay,
I felt like a Ben Schwartz was definitely able to play a little more with his comedic chops because they really
underused another comedian who they totally underused was I think is Jimmy O. Is that his name? He's really funny. He's
he plays like a doctor or whatever.
Like him sitting down with John Malkovich should have been a hilarious scene in season 1, and it just didn't work.
Right.
So anyway.
It must have been from the feedback. I'm sure most of the reviews were kind of like, this landed flat, you know. So
there's a part where like Steve Carell's definitely still like the straight man of the series, which is a very odd role for him considering what we saw him do for 7 years on The Office.
Yeah.
But there are funny scenes that he gets where there's like one moment where he gets upset that his coworkers are pranking people, and he's just like shouting YouTube video titles at them. Because he's so mad with the idea of making a viral YouTube video. And it's just so fun because he's legit mad. He's shouting things that are cute. Like,
I get it. I like that.
Dog high fiving, baby. Like he's so mad.
All right. You know, it's funny because living here in Colorado, I actually know now we're up to 2. Is it 2 people? No, 2 people personally who actually are active duty Space Force.
Oh God!
Funny.
Like it's a real thing.
You would have thought it would have gone away after the new president came in.
Orange Man left.
Yeah.
Because that was his directive, right? It was his thing.
It was.
But it was. I think that type of branch of the military was happening no matter what. It's just he was there, and with
okay.
him saying it, we're all like, "What a dumb name!" But like, it's just because it's
Yeah.
him. I think it was happening no matter what. Like that branch has
Mm.
already been such a big element. I learned this with talking to them. It was already a huge element of the Air Force already.
Uh-huh.
They just gave it an
I'm sure it
official
was.
title and seal, and kind of gave it its own branch, as
Which it
opposed
makes
to
sense.
Yeah.
Air
Yeah, it
Force,
makes sense, yeah.
Space Force.
Yep.
I get like when I heard it first, I was like, "What?" But then I started going, "Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
Air Force."
Yeah, if it's a
Space-
branch of the Air
Yeah,
Force or a
yeah.
spin-off.
But again,
the Air Force.
Orange Man saying, you know, this is gonna be great. The Space Force, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
You know, whatever he was
That
saying.
sounds like
Yeah.
it's
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
that was a little more
Gonna be
Arnold.
good.
Yeah.
Trump,
Gonna be
not
nice.
Trump at all.
Trump sounds like a moron. I sounded like a moron. It fits.
Oh my gosh.
I do. God dang it! There was something on the tip of my tongue that I want to mention about the space. Oh, so they do kind of. They don't touch on a different president or whatever, but they do kind of dive into more issues with the budget and how they can't really justify doing a mission to Mars anymore. They can't, like, certain things are just kind of
A
losing
little bit
steam.
real world.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
I still love the opening of the first season when they have the other branches leaders, generals making fun of them. It's so funny. Like I love
Mhm.
they're all making fun of National Guard too. I just that opening was fantastic of the first season. So I will give that one a try. All right, let's talk about stuff we're playing, and we'll wrap it up with Horizon Forbidden West. But first, I wasn't here last week. Just a couple small games I just wanted to mention. Won't talk a lot about them. Playing OlliOlli World, I do like it. If you played the other OlliOlli games, it's exactly like those gameplay-wise, where it's a side-scrolling skateboarding game, but they add some cool elements into it. A lot of the controls and tricks are what the other games were as well. So if you like that, it's now got a new coat of paint. The visuals, the dialogue, it's all very silly and fun and cartoony, and it's good. It's a good game if you already liked that kind of arcadey skateboarding game, and it does get quite difficult pretty quickly. Thankfully, most of the levels are just complete the level, and if you want to unlock stuff, you got to go back and complete challenges in that level. So.
Well, I do have it downloaded, so I will be playing it just to have a take on it eventually.
Some of the writing is funny. Like it is like, oh, they put some effort into making these characters kind of silly and fun. It's all very lighthearted though. So, Finding Paradise. So if you ever played To the Moon, this is actually part 2 of their little 3-part To the Moon series. It's kind of some of the same characters. To the Moon, the idea is you are part of this organization that helps a dying person fulfill their last wish, and usually it's going to be like in their dream state. And so it's got some funny. It's a kind of a Super Nintendo Final Fantasy VI style graphics as you navigate the world. It's got that visual style to it.
You have my attention.
That's the style of it, and then it's all very written dialogue, obviously. So To the Moon was very good. Actually, was pretty sad at times too. They did a good job with that game. Finding Paradise is a follow-up to that. It's very similar so far. They're about 5-6 hour games. They're not super long, but they're adventure games where it's just walk around, investigate the area, and do a lot of dialogue stuff. That's all it is. You're not fighting anything. It's a story game. And then their third one is actually a very different type of game, but they call it the sequel to Finding Paradise, which is the sequel to the Moon. And those were both on sale on Steam, so I grabbed those. So, but so far, Finding Paradise is exactly like To the Moon in terms of quality, and I'm interested. It's very good. So I recommend those. And then I did play some GetsuFumaDen Undying Moon. I like that game. It's really cool. It reminds me a lot of
good.
Dead Cells. So if you like Dead Cells and those types of games, this is right up there. I just don't think it's as good. Like the combat's not quite as good as something like Dead Cells. It makes me really appreciate the excellence that game is, but it is still pretty fun. Like you unlock all kinds of combos and you can upgrade your weapons. And I've gotten to 2 bosses. I beat the first one, and so far the second one I've only tried once. It's this like centipede type of boss, and he's pretty difficult.
It already sounds impossible.
But I like it. I think the art style alone is worth giving this game a look, at least on YouTube. And if you see it on sale, it's $25. It's a little steep for an impulse buy, but if you see it on sale or if it drops on Game Pass, totally try it out if you like Dead Cells type of games.
I think it's a solid game. Yeah.
Lastly, I bought Retro Bowl. It's for $5. Apparently, it was a mobile game, but people kind of were meh on it as a mobile game because of the controls. Retro Bowl is basically a very light version of Tecmo Bowl, the old Nintendo side-scrolling football game.
Oh, okay.
And that's exactly what it is. But it's even less than that original. If you go back and play Tecmo Bowl, you can do a lot more. You play defense, you do a lot more. But this game has lots of little mini RPG elements where you have to manage your team, pay a salary. You can only have 10 active players that you manage at a time. It's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun little football game. So for $5, I'm liking it. So, what are you guys playing outside of Horizon? Anything you want to touch on?
I can get mine out of the way before we get to like Dying Light 2 and Horizon.
Sure.
Cyberpunk 2077 we already talked about. I don't know when I'm going to be able to carve out time for playing more of the Nomad run through, but I do want to do that because I want to experience it on a console. So I am enjoying it, at least so far in the very beginning. But Uncharted Lost Legacy, I picked this back up, and after beating Uncharted 4 again, and this is on the PS5 remaster. And look at that remaster. Look at that.
Some nice high quality booty.
I just feel like this game, even though it's a short one, it like I don't know, it does Uncharted 4 gameplay wise better somehow. It's just crazy to me. Like in terms of the combat and like her she does something that lock picking. They don't do that in Uncharted 4. God, there's some other things with the puzzles that they just don't do. And in 4 that they do in this. And I just feel like this one, they just kind of nailed it. And I love that it's also serving many stories where it's telling you what Chloe's doing, but also serving as a follow-up to 4, telling you what Nadine has been up to ever since her kind of company collapsed. And, spoilers on this game, but Sam eventually shows up. So you kind of like see what everybody's...
So Derek would love it. Derek would love that part.
So you kind of see what everybody's up to. And I love the open area too. Like I think 4 didn't really have an open area like that. That was just like...
It had a short one, right? One of the levels was kind of that open area, right? A little bit.
But it was kind of more like a straight line of like, here's where you should go. Yeah. And this is way more open. And like, there's like 8 or 9 towers you got to go to.
That's a great game.
It's just really awesome.
That's really good.
That's all I got. Other than
it looks really. It's a beautiful game. They're both beautiful games. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Dan, what have you been playing?
So other than Horizon, I threw in. So for some reason, the other day I was just like thinking about music games, and I was like, I really want to just play some Guitar Hero or something. Like I was just really super in the mood all of a sudden. So I dug through one of my bins. I had Guitar Hero Live, which was the last Guitar Hero that they ever made. Okay. And I was playing that, and I was having fun, but I was like, all right. So the like online mode had been shut down 2 years ago, and that's where predominantly most of the good songs were. Like there's like maybe like 5 good songs on just the single player. Like that game sucks music wise. There's a horrible set list. Like there's like Skrillex in there and like Eminem, and it's like
I'm sorry, I was busy with emojis. Which one is this? Live or Rock Band 4?
Live.
Yeah, that game is trash ass terrible.
Like listen, if you like Eminem, it's fine. I mean, I'm not into rap music. It's just when I'm playing a game with a guitar peripheral, I'm not thinking of Eminem or Skrillex. I'm just not.
The first 2 Guitar Hero games had amazing songs.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. And the third one was like my fave.
Yeah, the third one. Yeah.
Point. Like Guitar Hero never came back from 3, in my opinion.
Yeah. But then I was like, you know what? Let me do some research on Rock Band 4 because I still have all the instruments when I had Rock Band 2. And I poked around. And I was like, yeah, this looks like this could work. So I bought Rock Band 4, and yeah, totally works. Awesome, dude. So much fun.
When it came out at launch, it was a nightmare. They did a No Man's Sky type journey with it.
No.
It just got they released Rivals, and then it got way better.
Because I have the guitar from Guitar Hero World Tour. That was the first time they did like the full. They did their own version.
That was their first Rock Band. Yeah. I remember
so
that.
I have that guitar, which actually the build of it is really solid. It's actually my favorite one that they had ever made because it just feels really good to use. And it's just, it's really fun. I downloaded some extra songs. And you can download some of the legacy songs. Like they had Coheed and Cambria. Like they had a list of like list of free songs. Was it Maps from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, I think?
Yeah. That's from the 3rd or 4th. No, that's from the 3rd Rock Band. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave the band name.
Yeah.
It's just do that.
It's just real fun, man. I wish that they didn't die with 4 and Live, that they kind of kept going. Because I think the idea of Live is really good. Like, they changed the buttons. I think it just needed maybe just a few more sections of them. Because instead of having the 5 colors in one row, they had the 2 rows of 3. So it just, like, felt really cool to do certain kinds of notes. Yeah, but it just felt really cool to do it felt a little more realistic, right? Because you'd have if you're playing real guitar, your finger's going to be all over the neck of the guitar. So instead of just a straight line. So
that's true. But you know, I mean, if you want realism, just play drums on expert. That's the only realistic. or sing.
I can't.
You can't play those games and expect realism in guitar unless you play Rocksmith. Basically, that's it. Rocksmith is just literally guitar tab the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm not
which is cool.
musically talented.
Which is
like you.
cool.
I'm not talented like you, Jeff. So
Oh, I suck at Rocksmith, by the way, and I'm a real guitarist. Like, I play guitar, and I like failed like the first 5 songs of Rocksmith, and I was like, this game's not for me.
You're yelling at the game like, I record albums.
I'm a real
I can play
musician,
these
damn
songs
it.
super easy.
I play songs. All right, I want to hear a little bit more about Dying Light 2. I have not put any more time into that game since my first. I think I put 2.5 hours, maybe 3. I put a chunk of time into it. Actually left it installed thinking this is a pretty fun world to explore. I just haven't gone back to it yet, but it's still installed. I plan on playing more of it on the PS5 there. Man, that game looks really good too. But Derek, I know you finished it.
We should multi, because I feel like we left off the same place, Tim. We should just
Probably.
eventually, whenever we have time
Yeah.
to circle back on games, we should just multiplayer that one.
I had just started doing a couple of the first side quests once it opens up, and I think I freed my first windmill and had done like one nighttime mission, and I just barely scratched the surface, so I wasn't very deep into it, to be fair. But Derek, I know you finished it. I know you got your hand raised. You've been waiting patiently because it's hard to listen to what other people care about. But let's go ahead and hear about Dying Light 2.
Your girlfriend must love you. You probably don't listen all the time.
You're just doing this in real life when she's talking.
She's like, can I go now? Can I freaking go now? Like, are you done? Are you done?
You guys have no idea how nice I am to that girl.
Yeah, well,
I'm a 180 version of myself than compared to what you guys get to
Hey,
see.
Derek, can you show me real quick? What's the animation in Dying Light 2 when you search through a bag? there.
Or running. Can you show us how you run in that game?
Yeah.
Like this.
But
So
anyway,
I did. I played it on PC. I finished it, which I was actually kind of surprised, even though I ended up mainlining the second half. I was doing a lot of side quests the first half of the game, and then once I knew Horizon was coming and Elden Rings, I was like, I don't want to have to be, because I know how I am. Like, once a game comes out that I really want to play, even if I stick with the game that I'm in the middle of, I'll like begrudge the game the whole time. I'll just be like,
Yeah.
when's this gonna end so I can just get to Horizon? So I really wanted to finish it before Horizon came out, and I was actually surprised I was able to do it. I didn't think I was going to, but I ended up mainlining it the second half of the game. I did run into some issues. For those who don't know, because I haven't been on the show in a month, I absolutely love the game, and I annoy everybody because I tell everybody it's a fun game. I think in proper context, Kyle and I are kind of the same. We like the little studios making big games, and we appreciate them. And Techland isn't a big publisher. They're not under anybody else. They make their own games, and they are making. And if you don't believe me, go back to their original stuff like Dead Island, which was, it was good. Like, it had the core of what Dying Light is now, but it was like badly done in
Janky.
every. It was janky. It
very
was
janky.
like the voice acting even now in Dying Light 2 is like questionable for a lot of characters. There, in the dialogue as well. Now there's some that are done well. You can tell they paid extra money for those people, and the dialogue's decent. It's still cheesy, but Dying Light and not Dying Light, Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide was really bad. But I still loved those games.
Mhm.
So if you put the game in proper context and realize this is not a AAA experience that you should be comparing it to, I would say Sony. I think Sony makes some of the best games ever. So they're one of the best publishers. So I wouldn't compare it to that. Like, it's not going to have a chance to be like Horizon quality wise. But overall, for what they're doing, and I don't think you guys will really get it unless you choose to play Beyond, but you're essentially playing a Walking Dead action RPG game. And that is, as you go through the game, the choices actually matter. Like, they're not just there and then they seem like they matter, and then later you find out they don't matter. Now, of course, and this is what's so dumb about a lot of gamers, the end is the end. They have to make an ending to the game. So no, not all your choices while you're playing the game matter to the actual end of the game. Now, the part where like they play out how the game ends and the future of these people and stuff, yes, that all matters. But as you actually play the game, and some of you probably experienced it with when you make your first, I don't know if you guys got to making your first real choice, but it changes the world, like physically changes the world, and it actually changes how you maneuver around the world. So you have a big choice there. But that's not even to me the choices that I really liked. The thing I really liked about the game is I really felt like I was playing The Walking Dead. I at one point was texting because Jesse White was going through the game as well, and I think he's either finished it or he's at the very end. And I go, dude, I don't know who to trust. I have like 3 or 4 people that want me to make choices, and these are all main characters, so these aren't like little side quests and stuff. These are people that are that matter throughout the entire main story, and I'm like, I don't even know what faction to trust. I don't know who's gonna backstab me. I don't know who's lying. I don't know who's telling the truth. I know the characters that they're making look purposely shady. I know the characters that they're making look purposely nice. And I live in the real world, and I know the people that are the nicest are usually the most shady, and the people that come across as mean and shady are usually the nicest. So it was a struggle, like as far as figuring out who to believe and trust, and that's what made to me the game exciting, to the point that it piqued my interest so much that I ended up going on YouTube and like trying to ask the question, like, who do I trust, and blah blah blah, and then they kind of play out the scenarios. And then that's when I realized that based off decisions you make, not only do certain characters die, but also certain main missions are skipped. Like if you go with this faction, you don't play 2 or 3 other main missions. If you go with this faction, you don't play those missions. Or if you pick this person or to trust this person, you'll play the mission, but you play the mission differently. Or you play a different mission before you play that mission that gives you more intel and stuff like that. So that's when I was like, dude, they're actually making what I think a lot of these other developers should be doing at a deeper level, where it's like they're not afraid to tell a main story, have main missions, and go, not everybody's going to experience all these. And I've seen it. I'm in the bigger groups now, and there was one guy that didn't like my post. He's like, it's not that big of a deal. The choices don't matter. And I said, dude, you take 2 seconds to Google it, you'll realize you're ignorant and stupid. Which, yes, I did say it like that.
Yeah, why have a rational discussion to convince him when you could just call him an idiot?
Dude, I don't fight over politics anymore, so it's all about games. That's it. You don't get any niceness. You get nothing from me. I go
but hold
straight
on,
for the
but Derek is on the outside not nice, but on the inside he is nice.
That's right. That's it.
There you go. Wow.
And I'm an asshole, but on the outside I'm nice. So.
So that means that someone like Kyle, who's incredibly nice, he's a real jerk behind the scenes, is what you're saying.
Just toxicity.
I guarantee you,
Okay.
Kyle on the inside hates a lot of people, but he can make you believe, oh, I like you. You're good. You're a good guy. But anyway, so that's one of the things that I liked about it. I thought the choices mattered. Even if let's say they even didn't play out that crucial. Maybe I am dramatizing it. While you're playing the game, you don't know that. So the choices still matter, because you're like, wait, do I do what this guy's telling me to do? Do I trust him? And then there was even like a side quest where the side quest was about one of the main characters in the first half of the game. Not like he's not like a main character like all the time, but you know who he is. You interact with him. You have to make choices to side with him or not. And you find out that he's not doing well, and this is a side quest. So if you're not doing any side quests, you're not gonna play this out at all. But you basically can save his life, or he could die. I mean, and it's a side quest, and I felt the weight of it on a side quest. So I just felt like they handled the mission, or the main story and the choices really well. The only thing that ended up ultimately knocking the game down to about an 8 is 2 reasons, because I had it as a 9. easily as I was playing most of the game. That's one, because I actually did run into a groundbreaking, game breaking bug that if I wasn't playing on PC, I wouldn't have been able to fix it because I had to mod my game with the dev menu and then go in the menu of the developer and reset my checkpoint. I only lost like 2 minutes of game time, so that wasn't a big deal. But the point was, is if I didn't have that option, I literally was being loaded miles away from where the game actually thought I was, and then it was giving me 4 seconds to get there.
So on a
You're out of-
console, you could have been screwed.
I would have been screwed. There's
Yeah.
nothing I could have done. I had to wait. I would have had to have waited for a patch. So that
Yeah.
is unacceptable. As somebody who's very graceful with developers, especially somebody like Techland, I'm like, no, this is an issue I've had with video games for a long time. I don't have a problem with you automatically saving. I actually prefer you to automatically save, but you should always give the player the ability to manually save.
Yeah.
Always give the player the ability to manually save.
Agreed.
Because if this happens, you get stuck. And that's
Yeah.
what happened to me with Ori and the Will and the Wisp. I ended
Oh.
up I kept loading underwater when I didn't have a tool to keep me alive, and I just kept dying over and over and over. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. So, and I couldn't go back to a later save because they didn't have
Yeah,
that
they should
built
at
in.
least have a list of like your last few checkpoints or auto saves, right? And you
Yeah.
can, if
Yeah.
this one doesn't work, that's a great kind of fail safe. Have the last 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cyberpunk had like 18 load.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
in
or,
one of my games. Yeah.
or
Yeah,
just
you're
do
right.
a
Good
bunch
thing
of auto.
It's a good thing you had the PC. You could go find that folder where it lives
Um,
and load up.
So it sounds like, because I mean, Mass Effect really when you take the whole series into account, like I know people all pissy about the ending, but like you're making a lot of choices throughout that entire series.
It's exactly like Mass
So-
Effect as far as
The journey,
gives
right? It's
you
the journey.
all these choices, and in the journey you experience the weight of the choices and all that
Yeah.
stuff, which is exactly why that guy was being a little douchebag, and he was being a douchebag first. But it's because I know what it was. Is he had beat the game and he was like, the ending, nothing I did in the game mattered to the ending. And I'm like, that's the ending, bro. The entire game and how the world plays out, those choices 100% matter.
Apparently,
But
people
the
really
actual
want
ending-
endings to be different, like so drastically different.
Yeah,
like
nobody's
they
gonna
want it-
ever no game developer's ever gonna have like 40 different endings. Unless it's
It's
like a
not just
lower
that.
quality game or something. I don't
If you
It's not
change
possible.
it to where you create your own ending, then the next thing people are gonna bitch about is like, well, the narrative didn't feel like it felt
Yeah.
all over the place. Yeah, it felt all over the
Yeah,
place
exactly.
because they wrote it for you to make all the choices. You still have to have like a main story, a main villain,
Yeah.
and then you have to have an ending. And the only issue I had with Dying Light 2 is and I'm not gonna spoil it, but like you're basically you're a pilgrim who has this like you keep having these flashbacks of you and your sister in this hospital, and you're getting shots, and
Right.
you're being something's happening to you.
Experimented on somehow.
You're being experimented on, and now you're seeking out your sister, and you run into the doctor in the hospital. Like he's the main villain in the game. Like that's who you're chasing after. So that's your whole point, is you're working through the city, you're doing all these things that you're trying to do for all these people to try to get through the city to get to him. And the way it plays out on his motivations and what actually happened to the sister and who he really was and all that stuff, that was when I was like, no, that was really dumb. That was really, really dumb. And I had a lot of issues, as I've heard other people, the last 5-10 hours, there was a lot of technical issues too, just with the game. So the game definitely needs to be patched. It was
It will
not,
be.
in my opinion, ready for a full launch. This is a game that could have probably come out on PC. Same thing with Cyberpunk. Everybody's like, Cyberpunk shouldn't have come out until this year. I agree, on consoles. It should have
Yeah.
released on PC and then come out on consoles a year later. Dying Light 2 should have released on PC, because if you play it on PC, not just because I have a ridiculously expensive PC, it's optimized better than it is on console. And there's a lot of people that will say it's not optimized good on PC. They're wrong, because if you watch Digital Foundry, the ray tracing that they're using in this game is really high level. Like, it's future-based technology, and so it is putting a hurting on, like, if I max everything out, ray tracing everything, I'm running on my 3090 at 30 frames per second. That's
Jeez.
not good for a 3090. I should be able to run it at 60 plus on every game. But
Right.
that the go-to for PC gamers is it's not optimized right, but it's fine. On
Do you
PC,
think
it's
something
fine.
like DLSS will happen for this game?
I think that is with DLSS. Yes, I
that's
had
with
it
it.
running on. I
okay.
had it running max settings with quality. Maybe I had it on performance, and it was still running at 30 or 40
Oof,
frames per
okay.
second.
So it needs a lot of optimization,
A lot of
patching in addition.
technologies.
But it's
Yeah.
but it can be optimized better, but it's really the technology they're using with the ray tracing. It's like really advanced. Like the Digital Foundry video I watched, he's a ray tracing like guru, and he breaks down. He's like, the stuff they're doing, look at this. He explains why it's taking all your FPSs. But that's aside the point. My point is that it's ready for PC. It's not ready for consoles. So even when you guys are like, it's a pretty game, it's not really acceptable, in my opinion, on these next gen consoles, or now their current gen, for a game to be performance mode 1080p. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It should be at least 1440p. And if that means you have to lower the detail of the world a little bit to get a little more Ps to get your 60 frames per second, or mess around with implementing and optimizing the game a little bit better.
Draw
I think,
distance, something, right? Like
yeah, I think they could
Mhm.
have done something. I just don't think they had time. I think they were like,
That's fair.
we've already delayed this game 70 billion times. We need to get it out. We
Well,
need to
it
make
comes down to
money.
the small team thing you just talked about, right? It's a small
They
team.
need to make money, and I think that's part of why they were like, we got to
mean,
get this game out.
Dying Light needed quite a few updates also, and then by
It did.
the time it was like a year or two later, they were releasing all that extra DLC, and people were like, love that game. So
Mhm.
And again, this is a big open world game, and even Horizon, who we're going to talk about now, so we can actually swing into that. I'll end on Dying Light 2 just saying it's fantastic. The ending is a letdown, but if you're looking for a Walking Dead as far as choices, not knowing who to trust, factions, evil people, good people, you don't know, type game that's got heavy RPG mechanics, lots of upgrading and loot, and great parkour, and it's solid combat when you upgrade. Like, you do start bare bones, where it's just, I'm just swinging. But as you start upgrading and you start adding different tools and abilities, you start flying through and cutting zombies' heads off in like 0.2 seconds. But it's
Yeah.
overall, it's an 8 for me. It's outstanding. It will go up when the technical patches come out and stuff like that. To me, it's an 8.59 game as far as fun level and how good it is. But what I was gonna say is, these open world games, gamers, I'm not saying you have to sit here and settle, but you also have to be understanding. Even Horizon has issues technical, and that's made by a big time publisher who takes care of their. Sony is very careful with their games for the most part, especially if it's like their babies, like
first party.
Horizon or God of War or something like that, Uncharted. They are going to want to only release top tier stuff, and that
Yeah.
includes the technical side of it. And even Horizon has issues.
Sure.
And even it's not optimized very well, because I don't know if you guys are playing, and I imagine every one of you are probably choosing the 60 frames per second. I will not play on 60 frames per second with Horizon. It is so ugly at 1800p. It's blurry, it's gross, it's terrible, and I'm
All right, we'll
not
get
the
to
only
that.
one
We'll get to that in a
complaining.
second.
Dude, you are so wrong on that.
I'm so confused.
I'm
Somebody
not
else-
wrong on it. There's
check
like
your eyes, bro.
several people that are like,
We'll get to
I
that in a
won't
second.
play it on that.
We'll get to that in a second. With Dying Light 2, real quick to wrap that part up, because that game was very interesting, and I think it came out to pretty good, somewhere between like decent to good reception. And I agree. I think over time it's going to be improved. It'll be optimized. We'll add more content. They promised a lot of content for the
I
next
mean,
few
it's
years.
an 8. A Metacritic is an 8. That's good.
I think the opinion of it's only going to go up, is what I'm saying, which I think is
Yes.
awesome. And so I think that's great. I'm learning about myself. I feel like just in general, zombie stuff isn't on its own that interesting to me. Like I know a lot of people love like, oh, there's zombies, I'm in. I'm like, it's fine. Like whether it's a zombie movie or a zombie game, that's
feel
never
you on that.
been something that I'm super interested in. Just like some people love vampires and vampire stories and that lore. I'm like, okay, I can watch it if it's good or play it if it's good. It's just not my favorite thing. So I think that's part of why a game like Dying Light 2, I can say that's fun. That open world is cool. I like the mission design and I like the way it looks. But the idea of just killing zombies and then the other alternative is just human bandits. You know what I mean? Like I think just for me personally, that's not my. I think it's part of why that game didn't hook me. The other part of it is first person. I think I'm just not that big, and I'm looking at all the games that I've loved over the last several years. You know what? Cyberpunk 2077 should have been a game that I fell in love with. The setting, the characters, the upgrades, the
I would
story.
have preferred that to be third person. Too.
I should have loved that game, but I think first person actually made me enjoy it less. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. I can't say it was a mistake. I just think for me personally, I didn't like that. I don't know.
I'm
know what it
always
is.
saying I'm
like
always
first
saying
person.
sarcastically third person better than first person all day, every day.
I just
Well, now that you have a PC, you can download all the mods.
that's true.
There you go.
That's
There
true.
you go.
So anyway,
That's
I just felt as
excellent.
you were talking about it, I was like, I do like this. There's a lot about Dying Light 2 that checks all the right boxes for me. The action RPG, the open world, the story, the choices. I like all that stuff. And I think it's a little bit with I get a little tired of zombie settings after a while. I enjoy it for a little bit and I get tired of it. I get a little worn out on it. And then first person, I think those two things just aren't my cup
I'm
of
not big on zombie stuff either. Like I play all the zombie games because, well, a lot of them come out, and I
Right.
don't have a problem with
true.
them. But they're
I don't
not.
either.
That's not a draw for me. Like I don't play the Dying Light games because of the zombies. I actually like the Dying Light games because of co-op. I like
Yeah.
the open world, and I like the RPG and parkour parts of it.
The parkour is
This
cool.
one just to me stepped it up because the original Dying Light, it has choices, it has stuff that matters in it too. It's decent, but it's pretty rough when it comes to like, do you really even care about these characters and stories? And I didn't. This one, I feel like it stepped it up in that area. It's still a little rough, like I said. The ending's pretty bad, and overall, there's a lot of terrible characters. But the mystery, the choices, all that with the
Yeah.
human characters. That has nothing to do with the zombies. Zombies are like filler. It's the human characters and all the factions fighting. That's what makes me think it's The Walking Dead. It's like you should all be working together, but just like the world we live in now, we're all human beings. We should all respect each other. We should all love each other. We should all be working together. But no, we all have belief systems. We all think differently, and then we create these groups and then we fight against each other.
Yeah. And then we have
the
certain
real world.
questions we'll
Yep.
ask to figure out what team you're on to know if we can be friends or not. I agree with you. The parkour too has some really cool moments that there are times that I'm like, man, I wish I could see my whole character while I'm navigating.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
listen, that's just personal preference. I understand.
Tim, you and I are identical on this, actually.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I can't point to something that is objectively bad.
Yeah.
I think
would
the game's
rather
cool. It's not my
fight
personal preference.
robot dinosaurs than zombies, and that's why Horizon.
Yeah. Okay.
Horizon's always
It's
gonna
more
have-
unique.
Well, Horizon's always going to have an advantage because of those two main things. Is that I like what you're fighting; it's unique, and I love the third person. And they have also
I'm right there with
stepped
you.
up their RPG mechanics in the second one, whereas the first one was they were there. I enjoyed my going and getting my especially that OP armor, the stuff they asked you to do that. I liked that. I got all into that. But this time around, it seems to be they're leveling that up in a better way. That I'm already going. I'm gonna love this game way more than the first one.
Yeah, Horizon Forbidden West has a really strong first impression when you fire it up. Everything from, in my opinion, the way that they recap the first story, because there are pieces of the first game story that I actually had forgotten, like little elements of it, and they do a good job of recapping a lot of that. And even the character interaction as you're exploring with the character from the first game, a side character from the first game, and Aloy has someone to talk to and someone to teach while she's teaching you, kind of refreshing you, the player, on a bunch of stuff.
Aloy is a jerk, by the way, too.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
we can get to that because that's my
Oh, yeah.
biggest gripe with this game is how much of a freaking wet blanket she is. But we'll get to her in a little bit.
I have an apt comparison for everything about this game to another game.
I do think Forbidden West has a incredibly strong first impression, and I say first impression. I've probably played 6 to 8 hours, somewhere in that range total. Maybe you guys have gotten more, but that's about what I've gotten in so far.
6.5.
I'm only 4.
And it is that first impression is maintaining. Like, it's not like it died away and I'm starting to peel back some layers and see some stuff I don't like. I'm not. I've got a few nitpicks that I also had in the first game that I think are improved but not quite there in this one. But in general, it's just incredible first impression. What do you guys think so far? And start with whatever you want to talk about with this game.
Yeah, well, I'll just throw out the comparison that I have for it. As I'm playing it, and some of the RPG elements and crafting, and even some of the platforming, it's just Tomb Raider, but it's literally just Tomb Raider in the sense that you have a wet blanket of a freaking personality as your main character, and you're doing the same things more or less, but it's open world, and the setting is far more interesting, and the sci-fi elements are just super rad.
I think her demeanor is justified to an extent, but I think now that we're going into the second game, maybe by the time you get to the end, it starts to shift. But it's like, all right, we've had a whole game where she's kind of like where she's being a lone wolf, right?
Yeah.
So like she's still lone wolfing it, and it's like I get it. People have trust issues.
Well,
so I
wanted to throw out that another way that it's similar to Tomb Raider for me is that there's not that all my games have to be like this, but there's no like emotional core or heart to the game, really. You're just kind of doing cool crap, and it's great. I still think this game's amazing. But that's another comparison for me with Tomb Raider. Like, I'm just doing cool crap, and the story is fine, but the world building in this game specifically is where it excels, like to like no other degree. Basically, it's just
Derek. Is this
immaculate world building?
The one that you have? The special edition?
I thought y'all both got the same one, right?
All I can see is us sitting in a bunch of balloons. I can't see you guys.
A bunch of balloons?
Okay, go up to view at the very top right and change it to just to grid view.
Have you not been seeing us this whole time?
No, I only see your heads in balloons.
In the together mode.
Change it from like to speaker view, then back to grid view.
I got it.
Okay.
This is the one that you have, right?
Case?
Yeah.
Yeah, the like hardcover, and then it's got a steelbook cover inside, which is
I
nice.
haven't even opened it. I'm just playing off of Tim's version he bought. I just kept it like this.
Yeah, nice. Derek and I big fans of the steelbook cases. It's very shiny.
I am too.
Nice.
I have that for a couple of games. I love them.
So my main thing with the world of Horizon is like, okay, so taking into like sort of Aloy's demeanor, right? It's like she's like one of like two people, maybe like a couple more that like actually understand what's going on in this world. So it's like she's carrying all this weight on her shoulder because also like she's literally a clone of the person that's the most important to sort of
spoilers.
Yeah,
well, I mean, from the first
game, but I mean,
that's for the first game. Listen, if you're playing the
second
game, the second game spoils the first. Don't feel bad, Dan.
Sorry, but it's from the first game. Yeah,
the second game spoils the first game immediately, in huge ways, like right out of the gate.
But it has to. It has to. It's a consecutive. It's like literally right chronologically.
But it's like Aloy's just so aware of what's going on in this world and why it is the way that it is, and then you have Silence and like. Those are the only two characters that I can think of. And then you have all these people that are just like basically essentially cavemen. You know what I mean? Like
the issue with her is she'll literally look at somebody and be like, I'm the savior. I'm the only one who can save it. Well, what do you mean? I can't talk about this right now.
Yeah.
Well, because
every single time.
Dude,
every single time. Well, can you stay with us and help us? No, I can't right now. I have to go save the world. But why? Because I can't right now. I have to go save the world.
But they wouldn't understand, though. That's the thing.
I understand that, but you can still like.
You can still have her have flashes of personality a little
the
more.
The entire setup
just I can't talk
of
about
her meeting. Like I went and talked to everybody. They give you like an optional quest where you can go talk to all her friends, and everyone's like, "You took off right away," and she's just kind of like, "Yeah, I had to."
Had to, can't talk about it. Gotta go. Bye.
But I
Well,
mean,
Okay, so
it hurt our
here's something I wanted to
feelings.
point out with this is that I understand what you're saying, Dan, where it's like, hey, it's kind of a result of her environment, her experience. I get it. But they actually give you, hey, do you want to be aggressive, smart, or loving
sure.
here?
Yeah.
I tried. I actually reset the save and tried. She sounds and acts the same, even if you pick the loving response. She is just a
Yeah.
wet blanket of a personality. I think that's the way that they designed her character. I don't
Sure.
think it's Ashley Birch's problem because she can
yeah.
do all kinds
She's
of
doing
characters.
great. Yeah, she
It's
can.
the
So
Chloe is
dialogue.
so different from this
I
character.
think
yeah.
it's the dialogue they give her, and it's the way they're directing her to be very deadpan, which I can get. I mean, listen, I'm a huge fan of Geralt from The Witcher 3. Deadpan isn't a problem if it's done correctly, but I don't find her to be like, why is everyone so into her? Like, there's multiple characters
Yeah.
who are clearly into her in a romantic way,
Yeah.
like, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
Well,
why?
they must
What?
sense something special about her. Well, and because she is special.
And
because
you were jumping over hoops to defend.
no,
criticism.
I'm just trying to, because again, we're in a world where there's these
Dan loves
people.
Aloy.
No, hold on. We're in a world where these people.
He's one of them.
they
He's got
do
a little
talk-
quest sign above
they
him.
do
He's
talk
like, "Yeah, I
normal.
like you."
She talks normal. I mean, the people in this world do talk normal. They don't talk literally like cavemen. They're not bashing each
Correct.
other on the head or anything. But
Yeah.
like, they are essentially cavemen. They are well-spoken cavemen.
I think that's a stretch. I think
No,
they're
I-
smarter than that. They're
I-
more
I mean,
advanced than that.
maybe, but I'm saying like it is. I mean, comparing it to what the technology in the world was prior, it's night and day. I think.
Maybe.
And
I don't know. As you're going to that first village, which I love the name Chain Scrape, by the way. What a great, and they say it
I
so many
almost-
times. Chain Scrape.
It's funny. and like I was thinking, okay, I got to go back to, and I forgot the name of the place, and I was like, I got to go back
Chain
to
Scrape.
Chode Scrap or whatever.
Chode Scrape. Dude, it reminds me
Chode Scrap.
of from Guardians 2 with Taserface. It's just it's
Oh,
that
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's Chain Scrape. Anyway,
Some of the names are so funny
I feel like
too.
I feel like as you go through that village, it actually feels like very modern and advanced dialogue and developed people who are stuck in a very rudimentary world, like talking to
Sure.
them. And even you've got this guy Ulvund who's kind of running the show, and everyone kind of hates him. And there's a lot of like political intrigue and subterfuge.
Yeah.
I feel like it's all very modern. And
No, well, that's why I said they're well spoken.
I was going to say, I don't think it's just well spoken. I think they're very smart characters. Even your buddy at the beginning, who you give the device to, and he starts to see stuff. Dude, he handles that like a champ. Like he starts to really quickly learn and adapt and grow. And I'm like, she's cutting. In my opinion, this is part of what annoys me about her character, is not just that she's bland in her responses to people. That's annoying, but I can get over it. It's that she is assuming everyone around her is so stupid they can't understand or help. That bothers me. So I'm like, you're just as bad as some of these other characters in here, because it's like I have to go alone. This is something I have to do alone. I'm like, look
Man,
at
I
she's
really
also
thought
she's
when
also
she
under
gave
the
the focus
impression
when
she's
she
in
gave
a
the
hurry.
focus to Varl, I was like, oh, cool, this is going to be like a two-person adventure,
Sure.
like another Uncharted 4
That was
Lost
actually
Legacy.
what I was gonna say. Did
Yeah.
anybody else go? I kind of wish they would do,
Right.
like, start maybe in future releases, be like create a party and make it an action RPG with several
Yeah.
characters.
Or you can pick. I want to control Varl for whatever.
I do
that'd be
like
cool.
Varl's character. I actually think
too. Yeah.
he just has a cool vibe about him.
Don't
but
even get
even,
me
dude, some of the
started on
stuff Aaron, some
I
of the
want
stuff.
Aaron fucking dead.
Listen, I understand
want
he's
him
kind of an
dead.
annoying character, but some of the stuff,
I want
some of the
him
stuff
dead.
he says to her, I'm right there with them. Where he's like, "Yeah, all right, sorry, you got to go do important Aloy stuff.
don't
Go
know.
ahead. I know you got to get going. Go
I
ahead."
liked his
No.
attitude. Yeah.
He is passive aggressive beta male, and you guys know that. Like, seriously,
She deserved it. Come on.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been that way. I shouldn't have. No, she's being a jerk. Talk to her like she's a jerk.
Again, she is to her. She's like, I
No.
need to get this shit
She's
done
an arrogant fool.
because like the world is gonna die. Like all this.
Dan would
stuff.
not defend her if
It's-
it was my face on her saying the words that she's saying.
Well,
He'd
if
be
it was
like,
your
"She's so
personality,
full of
your
herself."
face, then sure.
It's so funny that she spends like the first, I'm again 6.5 hours into the game. She spends so much of it saying, "Don't call me savior," but she has such a savior complex about this entire thing. It's
There
so
you go.
interesting about that.
That's
I have
the
no
contradiction
problem
that I'm
with
feeling
her
with
knowing that she is the only one, because she is. She is the only
It's
one
true.
that can save.
It's true. Yes.
But it's exactly what Jeff says, and him and I rarely agree on anything because he has
This
terrible
feels,
takes and
this feels
terrible
really
takes.
weird, and I'm not comfortable with this.
But I have a
of
problem with the
aggression.
fact that she acts like she's like, oh, they made a statue for me.
God God's sakes.
I totally don't want it. Oh, you could have actually made this look better. Like that's her mentality. Like it's almost like this is not my personality. I don't like this attention. And then it's like every 5 seconds, but I'm the savior. Do you guys remember what I did for y'all? Yeah, I'm the savior. I gotta go.
I do think, to her credit, to their credit for the character, she's trying to leverage that to get access to where she needs to go to save things. So I do think that she's leveraging that savior position in a way that makes sense for the story.
Can I
I
just
actually,
say-
I really liked her character, and her dry sarcasm works really well with some scenes, like with Ulvin,
Yeah.
as he's being
Some characters
clearly a
deserve it, yeah.
political, manipulative douchebag,
Yeah.
and she responds in some great ways, and like her character fits perfect with that to kind of like undermine his attempts to continue to control the town.
There's
So
a
that was
part.
great.
There's a part where I'm at where she's like interacting with somebody who was explaining what the lenses are, where you go up to the towers and grab a lens, and she's like, "So you're a thief?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm an opportunist." And then their back and forth was like, "Oh, this is actually playful and fun." So they do have it in them.
I had already collected like 3 of those or 4 of those, and then so Aloy says, "I actually have some of these." She goes, "Oh, you're an opportunist as well." Like that was great. I loved that little exchange. You know, there's a part coming up before the world opens up even more, which, by the way, we should talk about the open world, the way what they've designed. And there's a part where you have a potentially long exchange with a character if you want to really discover what's going on. And you can, there's an option keeps popping up that says that's enough for now, or you can ask them to keep going and explaining more. And I do think it's interesting, so you should ask them to keep explaining more.
So you and I are at the same hour length. It sounds like I'm exploring like way too much. Because I'm behind that.
It might be more than 6 to 8 hours. It might be closer to 10. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
I just want to add that I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't
Sorry,
know
you
if
wanted
guys,
to chime in earlier. Yeah.
If you guys enjoyed the interaction with her the first time she talks to the black ball guy, and how he puts,
Silence.
Yeah. And how he puts her in her place, like basically calls her an idiot.
Yeah.
Like if you can figure it out. And I was like, oh,
So Derek is silenced, basically.
Basically, I absolutely
but also it helps that that guy's performance is amazing.
Oh yeah,
he's fantastic.
He's amazing.
He
in
was
everything.
super savage though. Like there was
He
like
did,
2
you're right.
lines that he said to her, and that she was like, "I'm angry because I'm the savior," and he's basically like, "Oh, I'm so glad you finally figured this out. It only took you like 3 weeks to figure, or 3 months to figure this out."
To be clear for anyone who's listening, she actually never says the line "I'm the savior" ever. Derek is adding that in.
You know what? I'm getting
how she carries herself.
I'm getting the impression that I'm just trying to have a normal conversation. You guys are being just sexist as all hell. Is what's happening. You're being sexist.
No,
as all hell.
Oh, of
I will
course.
say this.
I mean,
no, my
if
wife.
this was a white male, I wouldn't have a problem with the interactions at all.
There you go.
My wife walked up while I was playing it, and I was in a conversation, and it cut back to Aloy. My wife just kind of looks at her and goes, "No one's hair's that thick." I was like, "All right."
Well, they don't bathe or whatever. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah,
Well, she's got a beard, right?
She's got extensions. She
does have a big beard.
Yeah, she has a huge beard.
Huge beard.
Actually, no, I was like, she's the savior, hun. Okay.
She's a savior. We're gonna build a statue of her.
She's stunning and brave.
Even though she doesn't say that, you're right. She does she's got some inconsistency with what she feels like is owed to her. Some like kind of like, why can't I just leave if I want to? Like, there's a little bit of that element to her character that hopefully becomes less and less. But
yeah, once we see the game through, we could have another opinion, a totally different opinion by the
I love the opening lets you explore a bit, teaches you some basics again, because I had to be refreshed on how you move, and even like crouching.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought circle. No, it's square to crouch. Okay, I was kind of getting used to the controls again, and then it puts you out into this. After looking at the map, I'm realizing very small open area to start with, where it's like this valley you get to explore. It's got a bunch of stuff to discover, some optional stuff on the side, some things that you can't explore yet. Like I was down in the mine shaft doing the one side quest, and there's a whole wall that says basically you don't have the technology to get through here yet. You know, there was one underground river that I swam down that said you don't have the technology to swim down here yet. So I was like, oh man, there's a little Metroid-y going on here. I got to come back later. So that part's exciting to me, because then you can see, even though the map's grayed out or whatever, it's all kind of fuzzy and covered up. You can see how freaking huge this is going to be. Like how many?
They said this is PlayStation Zelda.
Yeah.
Really?
As far as like the tools
As
that
far
you're
as
gonna
scale?
unlock, and then you have to come back to those areas because you don't have the tools or the upgrades.
Wow.
I think it's super smart the way that the game opens up, because it's like the area that you go into at first is like kind of like it's narrow, but like it's open. Like it's pretty narrow comparatively to the rest of when you look at the map that is fogged out, like you said. So it's like a good way to teach you, like, all right, like this is a reasonable amount of space for you to explore and still have plenty to do and kind of get used to
and
things.
it's big enough. You need to fast travel a little bit to campfires. Yeah.
Yeah. Just overall, I mean, just broadly speaking, this game is like just an complete improvement in all aspects.
Okay,
like,
so
this
that's
is the game that they meant to make.
My only negative on this game has been some of, I think, Aloy's character flaws. The way she was written and designed, I think, is one of the biggest drawbacks to the game. But that was true of the first game too. To be fair, that was one of the problems of the first game. So that aside, there's so much I love about this game. I know Derek was talking about how it's ugly. What are you smoking? This game is
well. You guys didn't even hear. You cut me off, and I am not the only one saying it. And all you have to do is go to Digital Foundry, and no, I'm not repeating it. I actually was going to play it on 60 frames per second and ignore what he said. And then I looked at it, and I'm like, this looks like shit. And then I went in other groups, and they were like, I can't play it 60 frames per second. It's blurry. It looks terrible. I was like, agreed.
Get a better TV.
And they had to drop it to 30, and they had to do favor resolution.
Huh. Okay. Well, I was just going to say I'm finding it to be absolutely gorgeous, both resolution and performance-wise. But maybe I'm on a CRT TV. Is that the problem? Is that I'm playing with the
I'm
three?
I'm on an
prongs?
OLED.
I'm just kidding.
So
I'm just kidding. I'm not on a CRT TV. I haven't done that since then.
I actually started.
I
It defaults to.
I was like, oh, he's on a budget. I'm not gonna judge him. I don't know.
It defaults to fidelity mode, right? Because like I actually didn't even realize I was playing in 30 frames, and then I switched it, and I was like, oh right, this does feel better.
Mine was defaulted to maybe it's system settings. Mine was defaulted to performance mode.
Okay,
well, that's interesting. Mine was defaulted to fidelity, and then I didn't like how every time I moved the camera, it was just slow as hell. So I mean that's the nature of 30 FPS. So I switched it to performance, and I mean I feel like I'm admiring it visually more and more that I play it. I don't know. So maybe I'm just getting acclimated.
I switched over to quality mode while in that first little valley there with Varl, and there's some water, and there's Dan's favorite. There's some cliffs in the background.
Oh man, are there cliffs in this game?
Dude,
there are so many cliffs.
Cliffs of the cliffs. Dude. So I switched it over to the quality mode. And so Derek, maybe this is what you're talking about, and you can help me if I'm not understanding what you're saying. So I went to quality mode. It's 30 frames per second. I did notice right away some motion blur as I turned the camera with 30 frames per second. I didn't like that. And things just
turned off motion blur completely.
Didn't quite look as good to me. And then I also noticed some of the coloring when I moved the camera. Only when the camera shifted a little bit. I don't know if it was the shading or the color. Like on the cliffs, for example, I actually noticed them change a full-on shade on my TV. I was like, that's weird. I went back to performance mode. That issue wasn't there. Everything still looked great as I moved the camera around. I find it to be incredibly detailed, and the motion is super pretty. Like
maybe it's the HDR. Maybe that you have to tweak it a bit.
I might need to do that. That's true with the quality mode. I didn't think about that. Sure. That's a good point. It could be lighting related.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I thought I'm thinking that with performance mode, it looks fantastic. And I've got a how old is that TV now? 6-year-old Samsung 4K TV. It is certainly not top of the line by any stretch. Even then, it wasn't.
Yes, but even Jeff, he has probably the same TV as me, and a lot of people on OLEDs are agreeing with me, but Jeff is disagreeing with me, which is fine. But I'm telling you, it's not just me. There's a regular people that aren't PC Master Race that only have PS5s that are like, performance feels good. I'm gonna play on it because it feels good.
It does.
But the 1800, it's 1800p, which I've played a ton of games at 1800p.
Not 1440.
No, it's 1800p, and it's blurry. So that's what I'm complaining about. It's if you look at the world, I'm not talking about moving. I can just be standing still.
The textures, you mean?
And everything is like blurred, and it looks bad. Whereas if you switch it over to resolution, it eliminates the blur and everything is crunched and tight like 4K. Everything is very, very tight visually.
Right.
It's not blurred at all.
Yeah. This is one of those moments where I feel like I need someone to come over, like yourself maybe, sit on the couch beside me, look at it on my screen and be like, it's blurry. And I'm like, okay, I'm just not seeing it. Like I need to find out, like, is it there and I just don't see it? Or is it just not that way?
Yeah, I'm clearly missing it too. I don't know.
I mean, when I switched it, like I noticed some of the lighting changed a little bit all of a sudden, but I haven't noticed.
I highly recommend if you want to waste your time on this, if it's not a big deal, don't do it.
Sure.
No. But watch the Digital Foundry breakdown because the guy that's actually doing the breakdown always plays his games and always chooses performance. every single time, and he literally says, I actually played this on resolution because I found the visual downgrade to be annoying. It does
okay.
not look good. It's blurry, and he breaks it down, and he's like, it's 1800p. It should not be looking like this. The aliasing is off. They did not do a good job with this, and that's how I felt, because I was
That's
like,
maybe something
well,
they'll
I'm
patch.
still gonna try to do the 60 frames per second because I like.
It feels good.
I'm used to it now. I play
Yeah,
every
yeah.
game at 60 to 100 frames per
You're,
second.
you're
I
supposed.
don't
I did
want to go to
some.
30.
I did. I mean, you've probably done way more research on that 60 frames per second, but like you're supposed to play games in 50 frames per second. 120 is even better, but like just motion wise,
It feels so much
it's
better.
natural.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
30 is like, what's going on? It's like a
Well-
lag when you.
Well, when you first switch to 30 and you're used to 60, it literally feels like it's chugging.
it
But
does.
now that I've played for 6 hours, I'm perfectly fine.
yeah, you
I'll just
kind
play
of have to
through
get
this
used
game.
to it. Yeah.
I've made the decision that I prefer the way the picture looks with the resolution more than I care about the performance issue.
Okay. Speaking of visuals, I do think they've done an incredible job taking their character animation specifically
Oh,
up a
yeah.
notch.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, dude.
So the
It is-
conversations you have with characters are
I
much
just
more
finished
compelling.
Zero Dawn. I just like not finished it, but I just
Yeah.
I
I
didn't beat
replayed it. Replayed
I
it.
watched the
so.
story recap or whatever, but I played it like a week ago, and
Yeah.
I was like, they look so unnatural. It is weird to watch them.
Yeah.
The
Talk to each
character
other.
models are
and Tim,
different.
like you're saying, like I mean, the character animations when they're talking to each other in this game, this is the part that's night and day.
Even
for
the
me.
side quests. So there's a side quest in
Yeah.
that first village where you can go talk to these two sisters who are experimenting with this weapon.
Yeah,
And they want you to go
Yes.
gather materials for you. Even their interactions with you and with each other, and the one character after you deliver it just kind of stares at you. It's very
Yeah.
funny. And
you're
Aloy
like,
goes
hi.
like, "Hi." Like,
Yeah.
that was great. And
Yeah.
it had a lot of little nuance. It reminded me of the little moments that I loved from Life is Strange. Of course, animated totally differently, but
Yeah.
just like the little subtle like expressions. I'm like, dude, they're really getting
Wait.
it this time. They're really
when
getting
you go back to Horizon Zero Dawn, the character models of like when you're having a conversation and the camera's like all up on their face is a completely different character model than when you're just running around.
Right.
And there's definitely less disparate. There's less of a difference here. Like it seems like it's basically the same character model, maybe slightly different, but it's
Well,
just so much better, you know.
And there's a character that you
This-
meet from. She's in the first game, and you meet her in Chain Scrape. Her name's Petra. She's a side character from the first game.
Yep.
And I never would have known it from the first game. I guess I just don't remember the story very
She
well.
looks
or what.
quite different.
But she looks very different. But also, she seems like, 'cause I went back and talked to her down there by the new board game, which I'll talk about in a second. And that whole conversation, I'm like, these little subtle things. Is she super into Aloy? Like, it seems like she's super into.
Oh
Aloy.
no, she is. Yeah. she
Okay.
is.
Everybody's obsessed with her. Let's be real.
Okay, so but it was
me.
it was the
She's the
animation of
savior.
the character,
She's
and
the
it was the
savior.
way
How can
it was
you
the way
not
she
be?
was looking at her and the expressions she was making as they talked that I was like,
absolutely.
and that's when it kind of hit me like this is impressive what they've done with even
Yeah.
the side characters. That they did a really good job.
They made it much more cinematic, like on
Yeah.
almost every level. I remember going to pick up side quests in the first game, and it's just the same cutscene every single time.
Right.
Where I mean, again, granted, they're side quests; they don't need to be that cinematic, but where you're just standing opposite the person, and the camera
Right.
switches.
That's what I
between
mean.
them.
It's just all
Yeah.
up in their face, and it
It's
just
exactly
and
what
very
Dan is talking
stoic,
about.
right?
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
stoic.
you guys-
very
you
dry.
guys
their
try-
heads moving in weird
Have you
ways.
tried the mini
sometimes.
game yet? They introduced this game called Strike. Have you played the Strike yet?
I did
I
the
haven't.
tutorial thing, but like I haven't dabbled yet. No.
So Strike is kind of very Final Fantasy style and Witcher style and
Yeah.
really Assassin's Creed, where you've got this little sideboard game where you can collect pieces or cards or whatever. In this case, it's pieces that have different stats attached to them, and it's a grid. And in the tutorial, it's just a basic grid, and all the terrain's the same. But as you start, I've played a couple rounds of it. It changes the terrain, and your attacks and defense change based on what terrain you're sitting on and what direction you're facing. And so anyway, it's very interesting, surprisingly in depth, and one of those things that I'm like, hey, it's not my favorite mini game of all of these
Yeah.
mini games that have been introduced, but I do like it. I
It
think they put
seems
a lot of work into it.
Quite complex. Like
It's-
unless I'm gonna get specific items that I have to play that in order to get where I'm like, man, I kind of wish I had that item. Like I don't know if I'm gonna be playing that. It just seems like too much.
Yeah,
going on.
I'm kind of making a decision now so I can get Elden Ring time in more thoroughly.
You're gonna skip this, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm
The
skipping.
strike.
I'm trying to skip errands, but I keep naturally happening upon them. I'm like,
Yeah.
God dang it! I didn't mean
Well,
to collect that.
The
So,
ones where the
And I'm trying to
sisters
I
skip
did
the
watch
side stuff like that.
I did
like-
watch a thing that the guy who has already beat the game said that there are usually two types of players: people that like to mainline the story,
Yeah.
and then there's people that like to do everything in every area. And he said, don't do either one of those. He said that you need to be in the middle. So
Yeah.
do not get. He said, don't get caught
good.
up on errands. Do
Yeah.
those eventually if there's something that you can unlock that's worth it. But
Yeah,
your main
like a
thing is
weapon
you
or
should be
something.
you should be doing obviously the main story line, because he's the one that also talked about how this is basically like Zelda, where you unlock certain tools and you can only do that through the main story. But also just do some side missions so you stay at par on par with the leveling.
On or above. Yeah, I'm far above where I should be
I
at
like
this point.
I like
Yeah.
that advice in terms of like mixing and matching. Maybe explore every once in a
Yeah.
while, but then get back to a main mission because
Yeah.
I can.
Which
I can
is
get
how
very
I
sidetracked.
play
Yeah,
games. Like I
exactly.
even did it with Dying Light 2. Like I was real heavy on the side quests in the beginning. Then I became OP. I mainlined it, and that's what I'll
probably
do
what
with
I'll
this
do
one.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
I will
did that with
get
Cyberpunk as
OP,
well. Yeah.
and I'll mainline it.
It's tricky because that like the one where you mentioned with the sisters, like unless they
That's the main
introduce,
weapon.
yeah, that's it, right. So unless they
It's like a
introduce
spear
that,
thing or something. I haven't used it yet, but yeah.
yeah, it with
It's
like an
good.
explosive tip, but like if you didn't go to that question mark, are you just not going to get that weapon down the line? So that's
Pretty
kind of
much.
the
No,
tricky
you
thing.
can. No, that's just the first one. You can buy other
Oh,
ones.
okay, gotcha. Okay.
That just gets you. That's what gets it to you early.
I will
It is
throw
a cool
out
one. It's like a
there-
javelin that you can throw. It takes a while
Yeah,
to
I
like.
figured it was
charge
something a
up and launch.
throwable, right? For
Yeah.
distance.
It takes a while to charge up the launch, so it's not something you can use once you're in combat. It's great to start
Yeah.
combat with.
I think it's supposed to be. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like something you start with long distance, and then you can just kind of
Well,
run up.
let's talk about the combat real quick. I think it's generally what you experienced in the first game. You know, it's
Right.
very similar, but they've really changed some things. And so, obviously, you still, as you start a battle, the idea is don't start it yet. Scan the enemies, see who's around, make sure you get things tagged and know where each of the enemies are. If you want to stealth a couple first and then jump in for the tougher battles, you can do that. I also really like how when you scan them, and the first game might have done this, but maybe I just didn't pay enough attention. Let's say you scan one of the first basic enemies as a burrower, and you see them all over the place at the beginning.
Mhm.
So you scan a burrower, and then you can kind of cycle through its little info card, and you
Right.
can see its different parts. And it also underneath there tells you like, hey, this will be destroyed if you just kill it. You can use this for upgrades. It's very valuable. Whatever. It'll kind of give you a listing of those things.
It was not as in depth in the first one, though.
So this gives you a real cool overview of that.
Yeah. And the path.
And it actually kind of like shifts the zoom to see which part it's talking about. So like if it's on their antlers or if it's
Yeah,
on
yeah.
their back or if it's on their tail, whatever, it kind of shows you where the part is. And so I've actually way more than in the first game. I'm already becoming really interested in, okay, I need to get the piece off their back and I need both of the antlers. So I'll just start firing at the antlers and I'll hit the piece off the back and then I'll just do whatever I have to do to kill it after that. And I have found that to be way more fun. Like now all of a sudden I'm approaching even a battle of like, hey, there's two burrowers and a scrounger, pretty easy enemies. And I could just stealth each of them. Or I could try to take out their voice box first, then they can't call their friends, and then I take off the piece on his tail and he's dead. And it's super satisfying. The combat I'm finding to be, and it's a combination of I think they did it better, and they give you kind of an overview of what's important and why you should knock parts off. But also, I think I'm just paying more attention this time around. I think the first game did some of that for sure. I just in the first game a lot of times I would just set a ridiculous number of tripwires and traps and stuff. Lure them into it, have them blow up, and then finish them off. And that was fun, but I was always like, man, why can't I never get the part I need? That's why, because you're blowing everything. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So
But
I
I mean,
like the
it's
strategy and the combat here. That's
Yeah.
what I'm getting.
There's just
I
more.
think this game allows you
more
to pick your style of combat that you
Yeah.
prefer. If you prefer setting traps and stealthing it, you can do that. I prefer to try to keep my distance as much as I can, and stealth is cool, but like keep my distance and just arrow them until they die so they don't alert everybody. But if they come at me, I'm equipped for melee now. You can melee this one if you want to, and it's rewarding.
I love the weapon wheel now has more spots, because that was one of the annoying things with the first one, having to switch between the different bows, because certain bows don't have certain types of arrows. So you had to go into the menu, you had to equip that bow. Like here, you still would probably have to do that, but towards the end of the game, because you're gonna have kind of way more stuff at your disposal. But there's more than 4 spots now. I think it's like 8 spots, maybe 6. Okay.
But they splinter off if you get different
Right.
types
Yes.
of arrows for
Yeah.
one bow. Yeah.
Exactly. So I really appreciate that.
And I
for
know the
sure.
first game also had a whole bunch of things where, hey, know what type of enemy they are, what element they have, so you can know what to use against them.
Yep.
But is it new that it's like, hey, if this is if they have an electrical power pack, overcharge it with electrical arrows? Was that new, or was that the old
They've
one?
Feels new to
expanded
me.
it here. It's no, they expanded it because there was what was the
It used
ones
to
that
be like, hey, if they're fire, hit them with ice. I thought that's what
well
I
there
thought
was
it
the big ones
before.
that kind of have like they had the big belly sort of
Yes.
thing, and
Yeah.
I think if you ignited that they would explode. So they had it in the first one. It just wasn't as many sort of options or
This one,
Yeah.
one of the first
types of
Feels
ways
more
to
varied.
one of the first
Yeah, yeah.
tougher enemies are these acid-based ones that actually aren't tough at all. All you need is to slow down time and hit one of those green things on the back,
It's
and they
just
blow up.
everybody in the town talked them up a big game, and
Yes.
then like as soon as you hit one in the back, you're like, oh, we're done here.
Yes. But I like that. I like that it's like, hey, there's
I
going to be
love
some of these
that,
enemies that
yes.
you're going to figure out their one weakness. They're actually tough to fight, but if you do the
Yeah.
one weakness, if you got the right arrow, boom, you can take them down just like that. And so
Especially if
the
there's
the
several.
fire, the ones that are they're kind of like the whatever. God dang it, whatever the main ones are.
the
That there was,
giraffe-looking ones you're talking about?
no, there's like ones that are fire ones that they charge at you a little bit. Those are a little tougher, but they take their time to charge at
Oh,
you.
you mean like the things on the back are not
They have
Oh, the
not
antlers.
great, right?
scroungers.
Okay.
They have antlers too, and they
Oh,
got
yeah,
like
yeah.
4 or 5 of
Which,
those
by
things
the
on
way,
their back.
1 or 2 fire hits will kill you
Oof.
right away at the beginning.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
those
and those-
guys are tough, but when you go to loot them, you get a lot. So
Yeah.
it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to take these
Yeah,
guys
those are
down.
good ones to snipe from afar. I've discovered. You
Mhm.
start shooting off their antlers, and you shoot off their. If you actually shoot off the fire pack, they can't shoot the fire at you, which is usually what kills you so quick.
Mhm.
So I love all that stuff. I think the layers of strategy they already had in the first one are just elevated here, and the combat just feels better. And I think Derek, you were saying this earlier. They've added a lot of additional RPG layers to this
Mhm.
game
Yeah.
that give you even more control over how you want to play. What
Did
do you
they-
want to upgrade?
Did they have as much of a skill? I just can't. Even though I just played it, I
It was
didn't
way more
do an upgrade a
straightforward.
lot. But is the skill tree much
They
larger in
did.
this one?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did have a skill tree, and it was similar paths. You know, do you want to be more effective with stealth or arrows or melee, whatever? But yeah, it's definitely more. And I do like it. Almost has reminds me of like the Final Fantasy grid system on
The sphere grid. Yeah.
a little bit, and not
Yeah.
nearly as complex, of
That's
course.
what I
but like,
that's what I thought.
but
Yeah.
like you unlock things around it, and then you get the big
Right.
one in the middle. You know, it's got some of that.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
love
They've
that.
made big
So-
changes to the melee too.
It
Yeah.
did.
It looks so much
I've been
better.
upgrading melee specifically to experience it more.
You know, what's
'cause I
really
know
fun
they made some
is
changes to it.
if you do the fighting pit, which I recommend, upgrade a couple melee things, and you can do the fighting pit. It actually does a good job of showing you how you can do that charge attack on.
Yeah, I've been
Yep.
trying to
enemies.
figure that out.
It's a cool one, man, because you start doing it, and you can upgrade that so it charges up faster. By the way,
Okay.
it takes a long time. So if you have an enemy that's relatively weak, you won't charge it up in time. He'll be dead.
Gotcha.
But as you level it up, you can charge it up quicker, and all of a sudden they kind of get stunned and have this blue glowy thing on them. And eventually you can do like you saw in the trailer back in the day for Horizon Forbidden West, where you can do the jump kick off of them and slow mo in midair and shoot them. Like it just looked really cool. You
Mm.
can do stuff like that over time. Like I haven't gotten there yet. Now I'm at the point where I can charge up enough, hit them so they're stunned, and then quick pull out my bow and arrow and shoot them, and they kind of explode, and it usually kills
Gotcha.
them. And it just
Yeah.
it's a very cool like melee combo where your arrow can finish him off potentially. It's just
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I think they did a great job with the
There's
combat.
there's like way more.
Does
kinda,
she
like,
scream, "I
acrobatics.
am the savior"?
Savior.
We've established
Say it!
that she never says.
Call me the
I
savior.
am savior.
She's way more
I mean,
acrobatic
I
in
know we
this, though.
started on some cons and stuff, but I mean, this game is overwhelmingly fun.
Yeah.
and addicting. So
Oh, by the way, Derek, there's 2 parts already I've gotten to. It's when you get to that fort that kind of gets you to the open world. So I don't know if you guys have gotten there yet, but there's a couple conversations you have there where they keep calling her savior, and she corrects them multiple times to say it's Aloy. Like she's corrected them a few times when
Mhm.
they've been like, "Oh, it's a savior."
Yeah,
She's like,
it's
had a
bad.
She's
couple of those
correcting him by
conversations.
saying, "You call me savior," which equals Aloy. So she is still saying that she.
All right,
is
fair
the
enough.
savior.
You are
Fair enough.
literally the worst.
They I think it's fair to say, I want to talk about this too. It's fair to say they've improved the way that you move around and specifically how you climb, but it's still not quite to the par of even I think most recent Assassin's Creed games I think do it better. I think Breath of the Wild did it better, but it's way improved. So
Oh,
at
yeah,
the last
absolutely.
Horizon game, it was like very clear cut painted like yellow rails that you had to go between. And now At first, I thought that's what it was going to be, because at first that's what it was. You saw a couple yellow rails. I'm like, oh, okay, we're climbing again. Here we go. But now there was a rock face that I came up to, and I hit my focus scan, and it highlighted all these little places I could climb. I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of secrets in there too.
So it's a very improved way of climbing, even though I have found some of the climbing, specifically the jumping, when you get up on a beam, to be a little janky. Like it doesn't really know what I'm trying to get it to do, but no more janky than the games I just mentioned could be.
There's a lot of controls going on, because like if you want to jump to something directly behind you, you're like on that thing, but then you have to hit circle, and she just like you have to remember the circle part for her to jump backward. It's like, all right, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But,
The grapple hook is cool. The grapple hook is cool, but so far kind of underused.
Yeah.
So far the grapple hook's cool, but a little underused.
Yes.
It's only certain parts where it's like, I need to get high. Oh, there's a little circle. I can jump to that. Otherwise, it's been a little underused.
But it looks cool though, the way that she kind of like pulls up towards it. And then also if you time it right, if you hit circle, because if you need to get something higher, the way she kind of prepare, she launches herself up, so that looks really cool.
I mean, after Halo Infinite, they really should use a grapple hook on enemies.
I agree. I wonder if that's something that, because I didn't see it in the skill tree. I looked through most of the skill trees. I didn't see anything grapple hook related there.
Could happen later on. Yeah.
Yeah, could be. But yeah, the Halo grapple hook is amazing. Honestly, I know not everyone loves it, but even the grapple in Uncharted 4 at least gave you some creative ways to like, all right, I can grapple here and either climb up, or I actually need to use it to swing, to jump to there. This seems to be much more straightforward. That's out of reach. And sometimes we'll give you the grapple option to make it not out of reach. So it seems a little inconsistent, but it's fine. Like it's so improved from the first one. Exploring's been pretty fun, I think. Cool.
Kind of bummed that Elden Ring's coming out.
Yeah. That's what I was saying, dude. They can't catch a break, because the first time it was Breath of the Wild.
So story-wise, I think it's interesting what they've done here, and I think they did a good job of not just saying everything from the first game doesn't matter. It's more like everything from the first game wasn't everything. Like there's more. So they did a good job of that. You know, a lot of times in these sequels they can undo it, but they didn't.
And I know why they had this conversation, but they were like, Varl was like, "Where's all your stuff?" She's like, "Yeah, I just lost it."
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yes.
You're the savior. You don't lose your stuff. Like,
no, I think the actual line is she says, I ran into some trouble and I lost some of my gear, and they don't really clarify. That's true. I wonder if they'll explain that.
I felt that was so lazy. Like, I'd rather you just not say anything.
If they never circle back to that, then
that's what happened.
If they never circle back to show you like maybe something happened, if they never show you that, then I agree. That's a pretty lazy way.
It's that nonsense of like kind of like when Final Fantasy VII Remake 2 comes out, people are gonna be like, how are they gonna explain the materia not having the material? It's like just let it go. Or I mean, I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. I would like to actually.
Portal
I would like for game developers. Look, I'm still gonna enjoy games if they never change this, but I would like for some of them to sit down and go, okay, if we're gonna make a sequel, and the entire first game was them building this character up to this, can we make the sequel not just like somehow magically this person lost all their abilities or tools or whatever? Can we just have them start that way and then add on and make them even more powerful?
That's what they did with the Batman games, right? Didn't they do that with the Asylum games?
No.
He had some of that? No? I thought he still had some.
He loses most of it.
Oh, okay. I thought for some reason
you have to upgrade it in different ways in each title, basically.
Some of it stays. I think in this one, one of the easiest ways to do what Derek's talking about, because I'm with you, one of the easiest ways is to actually introduce a new character, and now your old main character is actually a side character who maybe is training you or something. Like that's one of the easiest ways.
That's why Last of Us Part 2 made sense.
Yeah.
Like you're literally starting over with somebody new. Yeah.
And I know you can't do that every time. Sometimes you have to have that character at the center, but it's a little easier than kind of being like, well, I tripped and everything fell down the cliff and now I don't know where it is. You know, it's a little bit But anyway, and I know they keep some of the skills that you had in the first one did carry over here as just kind of beginning skills, and that's cool. That's good.
It's just video game stuff.
Like for example, taking over the charger to mount it. That's just a skill you have right away. Like you don't have to do anything.
I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
And then she has to, because of course she has to have a writing montage as the opening.
You know, they actually.
Thinking
about it,
like that,
you know, the main kind of like, what's the word for it? Like the meat. No, not the meat. Like that enemy that's just easy and a beginner enemy that's throughout the game, but they're an easy one to defeat. It was the Watcher, and I'm sure they'll come back in some way, shape, or form. But now it's the Burrower. So now she doesn't know how to override them because they're new. Like they did it. That was pretty smart of them to introduce a new kind of Goomba. Like that's their Goomba for the Mario. You know what I mean? Like that's your basic enemy for a while at least.
So cannon fodder or something.
And cannon fodder, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually pretty smart because I don't think you could ever override a Scrounger, which is a one from the last game. So they did it. I think they probably thought through how do we make it obvious that she just didn't forget magically how to do some of this stuff. It's we have to introduce new similar level enemies, and that's what the Burrowers are.
And these are all like different kinds of machines and weapons and stuff. That's why she's kind of naming them off top of her head, right?
The Scrounger already existed in the first game, and so did the deer-looking one with the antlers. That one already existed. But anyway, I'm just kind of thinking out loud about that. I didn't think about that, how they did a smart thing to replace that basic enemy who in the first game you can take over Watchers, and I remember overriding Watchers to have them start fighting each other in the first game. So
and that's still a thing that's going to come up because I've already upgraded a few of those skills. We just haven't gotten to that part of it. I haven't gotten that part of the story yet. You have to get to what's called
the cauldron, where you see where that machine was created originally, and then you learn how to override it. Those are the things that you did in the first.
Speaking of something smart, in the first one, I didn't like the limitations with the inventory. I thought it was super annoying. Like basically, I think it maxed out at 120. So like then you just couldn't pick up anything else. Now you have a stash.
Stuff.
So
she tells you, oh.
This is a little bit too much.
Dude,
she has said that the allies reviewed. That was in the easy. They're like she
30
will not
times.
shut up. She will not shut up.
Hey guys, did you know that Aloy has a stash?
I know we can look in our stash later. Aloy,
a mustache?
Dude, I think she needs to stop saying no to these friends that want to come with her because she's clearly going crazy talking to herself all the time. Like, let a friend come with you, would you? My goodness.
Especially when some of them can carry themselves like in combat. You're like
Varl.
Why are you saying no?
Totally could have come.
One more thing that I had taken a note of, I want to make sure I mention is great, that's gross. Is this is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, but I know I just got to this part in the game, just got past this part in the game, where you do finally get that what people called a ripoff of Breath of the Wild with the glider.
So
yes. I just got that part. It's a really cool story moment leading up to that when you finally get it. I thought it was done very well, very cinematically. We've already talked about, and it kind of like the story. You kind of feel like, everything just opened up. Here we go. It's that here we go moment for the game. And so anyway, but you get that at the end of that, and I've tried it a couple times. It is super cool. It is. It's a really cool way to travel around. So when you see those.
A lot of cliffs, a lot of high.
Yeah, when you see those cliffs, and I've wanted to jump down, but I'm like, I mean, she can. By the way, she can jump from pretty high up and land without any problems. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
If I were Arthur from Red Dead Redemption 2, I'd be so dead from some of those heights. Like he dies, he dies so fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
out of the damn way.
The glider that she uses is super cool. So I like the way they implemented that.
Nice.
And it's important to have something like that in an open world like this. You gotta have the ability to like, hey, I climbed up super far, and now I want to just kind of glide down to that area. That's what made traversal in Far Cry 6 so fun. You could just have the airplane drop you and then hit your glider ability.
Yep.
Far Cry 6 is fun because I don't think it's fun.
All right, Dying Light 2.
So I was gonna say Dying Light 2.
It's like a lot of the same ideas in those games.
I was gonna say that's first person, and I loved it. So that's saying something.
Absurd.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for now. That's our essentially first impressions from what is clearly a very massive game. I am going to do my best to follow that advice that Derek was talking about, where it's, hey, have a balance of hitting the corners of the maps without hitting every corner and driving yourself crazy. Because I've done this before on open world games where I've gone too in depth, every question mark, and I kind of burn out on the game. And I'm like, really? I've got 10 main missions left? I've done that before.
I did that with Cyberpunk, and that's why I never got another playthrough of it, because
I burned
balance every corner of that map, every question mark.
Because as of right now, it's like, this game is gorgeous. I love the way it plays. It's all I care about. There's no other games. And I totally can see what Derek's talking about. When a game comes out, now you're kind of holding a grudge against your current game. I've done that before too. And so right now, I don't feel any of that. So I'm like, I'm going to take my time. I want this game to be 300 hours. I don't care. Like, I don't really. I don't really.
No.
So I gotta balance that a little better. So anyway, but that's it. That's our first impressions of Horizon Forbidden West. What a cool game! Already.
Is everybody getting Elden Ring?
I
Yeah.
am.
And what platform are y'all getting it on?
PC.
PS5.
Pony Station.
Terrible.
Are you not going to answer that?
Yes.
I prefer
I
gaming
asked
on
the
my
question.
TV because I paid so much money for it. So
Are you gonna? I'm assuming you're.
I
Getting
like
PC
sitting
too,
down
right,
on the
Derek,
couch.
with your high-powered rig. You're getting a PC version of that, right?
I have PC and Xbox pre-order.
The minimum specs are what, allegedly pretty high. I don't know. I saw people like complaining that it seemed like kind of the minimum requirements are.
You saw
they
people
look fine to
complaining?
me. I
The
don't-
minimum requirements aren't too bad, but if you want to get
No?
the most out of it, you do have to have a pretty good
Okay.
system. I'll be able to run it right around mid levels.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just have to be all right. Like, I mean, I think we're just at the place now with new games that you can't
Well,
run it on a piece of
I-
crap anymore, guys. I'm
I
sorry.
grabbed it on a CD key sale. They had a pre-order for it last fall
You'd be
up, and it was like
surprised.
$34 or something like that for the
Wow.
pre-order on Steam on CD keys.
Yeah,
so
I
that's-
bought it for 40, and then I bought the Xbox Collector's Edition. Otherwise, I wouldn't be buying it on console. But I wanted the Collector's Edition.
Yeah, that'll-
Nerds.
here's my problem with the timing of that game is I think I'm still going to be
That
so
Cyberpunk
enamored.
Collector Edition is amazing.
I'm going to be so enamored with Horizon still. I predict that that'll come out and I'll try it because I want to be able to talk about it. I want to be part of the conversation.
Right.
I don't know how much I'll really be able to give to that game until Horizon credits roll. Maybe
I
I'll.
agree. Horizon is
do.
more my cup of tea. Yes.
Oh, is that
So-
your
okay.
Kyle impression?
It's
or-
a noob.
In
Cup of tea.
2017, Horizon Zero Dawn
whatever.
came out, and I was
Get
in
good.
love. I was in love with Horizon Zero Dawn. It came out the end of February in 2017. A week later, the Switch arrived, and I got Zelda Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild.
Yep.
And
yep.
I didn't play Horizon Zero Dawn again till like
Yeah.
end of April, maybe. Like that game was done to me until
Yeah.
I was all
That's
in. on
literally
Zelda.
what
Cause-
Derek was just saying. That's what happened with me with Breath of the Wild. I got obsessed with Breath of the Wild, and I was like,
Yeah.
Horizons, whatever. I mean, like,
Because
Then
it's
I-
one of the best games ever made. So
Then I
of
went
course that
back to Horizon. I actually started a
No.
brand new game on Horizon because it was one of
Yep.
those moments where I was like, I don't know what's happening. So I started over. Ended up loving that as well. Of course, I love
Sure.
that game. But yeah, sometimes there's just a game you'd rather play. So we'll see. With Elden Ring, I fully expect to try it, give my first thoughts, but then table it until Horizon.
March
falls.
doesn't-
I would say with this crew,
I guess
it's
it does
gonna
let up a
be
little bit.
like I'm gonna be the one that plays Elden Ring the most. Dan will
Good.
eventually beat it, but I'll be the
Yeah,
one that
because he's
plays
a pro
it the
gamer,
most.
right?
Yeah, Dan's our pro
Yes.
gamer. Yep.
yes. So I'll let you know how it ends. I think it's actually a nice.
I
thing.
beat them all, but yeah. okay.
I think it's a nice thing to balance though, because like the Souls like games don't like there is a story there and there's definitely lore that you can dig into, but it's not as focused as Horizon, right? Horizon is a story focused game. So I
Yeah.
think it's
I mean,
a good.
and there is tons
you
of
know.
lore and world building in. I think that's where
Yeah, yeah.
Horizon shines even more than the story. Like that was my Tomb Raider comparison mainly was like the story is fine, but like the world building is just it's insane
Well,
to me.
I already feel like Horizon had a great world that they built in this kind of country with
Yeah.
these tribes, and there's all this stuff that happened.
And now we have new
and then
tribes that
once
we
you
got
get
to
into
learn
the
about.
new one,
Yeah.
And thankfully, there's a character who's there to answer all your questions right at the beginning before you jump in there. And they have to lay it out for you. Here's these tribes. Here's who gets along. Here's who's the rebels faction. Like there's a lot going on in And by the way, Forbidden West is a little bit an overstatement. It's actually like relatively accessible West. Like a lot of people that are from your country.
Relatively accessible.
That's what it should.
That's why they call it the Forbidden West. Oh,
what it
you're really gonna explain the title? Thanks.
All the lefties in the West.
This
Make it
is
forbidden.
this is a political game.
Super political.
Don't go to the West. It's terrible.
All right.
That's what I've
Well,
heard.
we are over 2 hours. It's time to call it for this week. But thank you guys for taking time to chat. And then next week, of course, we're gonna give more impressions of this game, but really talk a lot about Elden Ring as well. So
And of
looking
course,
forward
Grid
to that.
Legends. Just kidding.
No, not gonna talk
We'll
about
get to that
I-
eventually, but
I might buy that. So
yeah, I will eventually, but not.
I like the
high
last
priority.
Grid.
That seems like a wait for it to come on Poor Pass kind of a game.
But that's the problem is you have. I know we're ending, but you have Grid Legends, which is probably going to be actually a really good racer.
It looks
that
like
I
it'll
would
be.
like.
Good. It does.
looks
You have
solid.
Gran Turismo 7 and you have
Oh, yeah.
Triangle Strategy all coming out in the next week after Elden Rings comes
Yeah.
out. Well,
Mhm.
Grid comes out when Elden Ring comes out, but a week later those two games come out, and I'm like, I would normally buy those 3 games day one. Now I might still, but I'm like, are
Yeah.
you gonna even touch them?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I'll boot
that's
up
actually-
Gran Turismo
that's actually
just
close
to see
with
what
that.
it looks like.
let's actually close it out. Here's what's coming up. We got Elden Ring and Grid Legends hitting on the 25th, so that's this coming week. Then as soon as you get into March, you've got Babylon's Fall. I understand that game's got a lot of skepticism around it for good reason. I
Yeah.
get it,
I mean,
but that's still a
I'm not
big
impressed.
release.
Does not look good.
Babylon's Fall, slightly overlooked series, and Shadow Warrior 3. That's a pretty big game that's coming out.
I'll diddle that one.
Diddle it. Gran
Isn't
Turismo
it gonna be
7,
on Game
Triangle
Pass?
Triangle Strategy. And then a few weeks after that, you've got the reboot of I know not everyone loves this, but the reboot of the WWE 2K series, which is getting really good hands-on impressions right now, by the way.
Yeah,
They're
the
saying-
dev like reworked so anybody could pick it up.
So
God, please be good.
yep, that one's coming out. Guys, don't forget Persona 4 Arena Ultimax.
Hold on. The least
Tiny Tina's coming out.
corporate
Yes, I was
game.
gonna get
Got
there.
out of my chair
got
when you said
then you
that
got
title.
corporate game.
Stranger of Paradise on the 18th of March. You've got Ghostwire Tokyo, Kirby the Forgotten Land, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands all hitting on March 25th.
That's a brutal
There's
day
like
right there.
there's like 7 games coming out in March that I would buy.
Yeah. And then
3 are coming out in
it's-
one day though. That's
it's
that's
not
insane
like
to me.
the first week of April's any better because you've got the new Lego Star Wars, which by all accounts is looking pretty fantastic, hitting that first week.
Looks fun, yeah.
The Chrono Cross remake
Oh my god.
or
yes.
remaster. I'm sorry, let me clarify. The remaster, and then the Advance Wars essentially remake is all that first week of April. So, dude, it's not going to slow down. It's going to be crazy.
Our wallets
I mean,
are effed.
I mean, April to me that's a slowdown. I'm
I
gonna
would
prioritize
rather-
new over remakes.
I
or
would
remasters.
rather have this type of year though than last.
I love
year.
it.
So it's
I-
nice to
It's
see.
great.
Dude,
I would
I'm with
rather
you.
have this problem where I'm like, well, I just don't have enough time. Yeah, maybe as we get close to the
Or
game
money.
of the year, we'll whine about certain games that maybe we would have liked because we didn't spend as much time because of the 70 other games. But overall, I'd rather have that problem than, there was good games last year, but it wasn't an amazing year to me.
Sure.
Yeah, it is
I do
definitely
anticipate
busy.
our summer being more of a catch up season like it almost is every year. Because that's more of a showcase season for developers with E3 and stuff, and
It'll be catch up, but also like some of the
and then the fall is
Nintendo-
going to be brutal again.
some of the
and-
Nintendo stuff like Mario Strikers and Fire Emblem Warriors 2 are both dropping in June. So like for Nintendo fans,
I'm
at
gonna
least.
get those, yeah.
So there's some stuff
I'm
happening
getting
in the
both of
summer.
those.
But yeah. Anyway, all right.
I
Thank
think
you guys.
we're gonna get more announcements for summer.
Oh, I think so too. I think summer's going to be busy because we kept seeing stuff get pushed out of the last couple of years. And
Also, in the
it's gonna-
summer, have you guys,
Forspoken
Tim
and-
especially, or PC Master Racers, have you heard of the day before? Because you're going to
Yeah.
want to look at the day before.
I have.
I've seen that. Yeah.
It comes out, I think, early access in June, and I can't freaking wait, dude. I know it's gonna be buggy as hell, but like it looks like a lot.
it does look really good.
Yeah,
It does look good.
it's like Division with cars, basically, and with zombies. So yeah,
Yeah, I remember seeing the
looks
trailer
awesome.
for that and being like, "What is this?" It looks really
yeah.
good. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good one.